Second one. Correct, but it's under review.
Yeah, well, what's gonna know? It's-
Good evening. It being on or after 7 o'clock, I'm going to open up the June 19th meeting of the Georgetown Conservation Commission. And in tonight's agenda, we have some business items to discuss, a individual from Greenbelt, and we have 12 hearings to go over. And why don't we start off with Vanessa Johnson from Greenbelt?
Thank you. Vanessa Johnson from Essex County Greenbelt, presenting the conservation restriction for James Maripodi. He has for approval and recommendation by the Conservation Commission, approval and a recommendation that it be signed by the Board of Selectmen. This is a conservation restriction that's being donated by Mr. Maripodi on 5.53 acres of a 6.2 acre property he has on Heather Road. I have a few, I don't have quite enough, but I have 4 maps I can hand out. That would be helpful for you to go over here and hand the others. Thanks.
Thank you.
So the property does protect significant conservation values. It protects the diversity of wildlife habitat from wetlands to upland forest. A small portion of the property falls within area mapped as priority habitat. He's reserving very few rights on the property. The only rights that he's reserving is basically to minimally manage the forest as necessary, just to maintain forest health, you know, to use it for walking, and that's pretty much it. He really is very interested in preserving it for wildlife habitat and pretty much leaving it as is. So at this point, the conservation restriction has been approved by the state, and part of the normal approval process for every conservation restriction in Massachusetts is to bring it before the Conservation Commission for approval, to ask the Conservation Commission to sign a municipal certification, which attests to the conservation values that are being protected by the conservation restriction, and to also seek a recommendation that the conservation restriction be signed by the Board of Selectmen.
Can you bulletize exactly what you're looking for again? Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm looking for a recommendation from the Conservation Commission that the conservation restriction be signed by the Board of Selectmen, and that the Conservation Commission sign the municipal certification.
Can we vote to, if it goes through, to have Carl sign it on behalf of the commission? Do you just need one signature from the commission, or do you need?
Typically, everybody signs
Okay.
the municipal certification, and
Just checking.
I did bring a copy.
So the question is, do we actually need a motion to do,
Well, a recommendation to the selectmen. I mean, someone can just, you know, make a motion to recommend to the selectmen to sign the doc, and that the commission sign the municipal certification, if that's what you choose to do. And then I presume Vanessa can hand it around, and we can sign it now, and the copier's on downstairs. If you don't mind, before you leave, just make a copy of it
Sure.
and leave it on my desk, my
Yep.
door,
Yep.
and I'll grab it later.
So why don't we, just to be legally tight and remove uncertainty at a later date, why don't we make a motion and carry it?
yeah, I agree.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to make a motion concerning the conservation restriction, an unrestricted area boundary sketch. In any event, but concerning the conservation restriction pursuant to, Vanessa, could you just repeat that?
Heather,
What is the property?
I just call it the Maripodi conservation restriction.
okay.
For the Maripodi conservation restriction to, those bullet points again?
To sign the municipal certification and recommend that the
BOS sign it.
Board of Selectmen sign the conservation restriction.
So moved.
I got it.
Second.
So we have a motion, it's been seconded to recommend that the BOS sign the CR, and also that we would sign the municipal certificate. Is there any further discussion? Now, is there anything that, further that we need to do with this once this occurs?
No.
As far as monitoring or anything of that
Nope,
nature?
that's entirely Greenbelt's responsibility, because
Okay.
we'll be the holders of the conservation restriction.
So he'll work with you when he's doing the forest maintenance?
If he does any. I mean, the land is going to be sold to a new landowner imminently anyway, so, but yes, they have to,
I mean,
yeah.
we
Okay.
are involved, the regulations and the Wetland Protection Act still apply. So this is just for the restriction, like the use of the land, kind of construction, things like that.
Any further questions?
Just one further comment, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank Vanessa from Essex County Greenbelt and Steve, our agent, for working so hard on not just this, but a lot of projects that the public has benefited from.
I agree. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good night.
We're gonna sign it, just so that she can get it signed.
Yeah, signature is on.
Oh my God, this-
Susan,
It's my favorite
can I
thing.
borrow your pen? Mine is not working.
I've got at least one extra.
we usually sign crayon,
May I? Thank you.
I'll get it back to you. Thank you for
There's
the
another
pen.
one.
I'll give it right back to
I'm
you.
gonna go
right?
run downstairs and get a couple pens. There's no reason
Upstairs, anything?
applicant should be like
Thank
that.
you. Got it. Thank you. Is this a Greenbelt pen? Here.
I don't think, no, it's not.
That'll teach me to pull a pen out.
There you go.
So is this, what is this hatched area here?
That's unrestricted, that's a house lot.
That, okay, is
Yeah,
that?
that's
is that-
where a house will be
Okay.
built by
So
the
that's
future
not,
owner.
oh, I see, okay,
that
so
part
that's
is not
not part of,
restricted,
right.
right.
I was surprised reading the description of it, how rich it sounds
Yeah.
in many
Lovely
different
land.
aspects.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's beautiful land.
Especially, thank you, could you give that to Vanessa?
Oh.
Oh, what was I gonna say? It's for such a small parcel, it seemed to, a relatively small parcel, it seemed to contain a lot.
It does.
That's neat.
Thank you. So make a copy and leave it on your desk.
If you don't mind, thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, it being on or after 7:10 PM, I'm going to open up a new notice of intent for 3 Emily Lane, GCC 2014-10. That's the expansion of existing paved driveway, replacement of existing walkway, removal of select trees, stabilize eroded slope, install step-stone walkways, portions of the work area are within the 100-foot BBW and within 200 foot of a perennial stream. If I could have the applicant and/or consultant in, if you could identify yourself, please, for the record.
Consultants here, but I'm Judy Ring. I'm one of the home owners. My husband's not here, but I'm here.
Would you happen to have the green cards?
I think I see them at the bottom of your pile.
Yeah, I left a bunch of them. But,
Under the newspaper clipping. We just need the green cards.
The
for
small-
notification.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's right, right.
These are what
Yeah.
got returned, but
Perfect. Thank you very much.
that's everything. There were 22 people that I sent notices out to.
Now, did you say someone else was gonna,
No, Mr. Bill Holt had done the layout drawing of it, and I gave that to Steve. I'm not sure who has it, but we have several things on there that we were doing where there are 8 trees that are dying or in the process of dying. They're long, scraggly trees that we'd like to get cut down because they're losing branches and they're dropping on. We have a roof over our sun area, and there's 3 sunlights on top of it, and so the branches are falling down on them in the wintertime with the winds and everything. And also, some of them are angling, the trees are angling towards our neighbor's property where their driveway is. And so we're doing some landscaping on our property, and we'd like to have those trees cut down stumps removed and taken off of there. We're also expanding, we have, our driveway is, we have a couple of cars and their SUVs, and the driveway is small, and we can't park side by side without the doors hitting one another, so we want to expand the driveway about 2 feet. And that's measured out on the drawing, I'm not sure if you've seen it there.
2 feet closer to the wetland.
2 feet wide or the length of the driveway.
The the length of the driveway. So that was the second thing that was on it, the notice. The driveway actually itself now has to be replaced. There's actually dents in the driveway, so we have to replace the driveway. So we want to replace it, and while we're replacing it, we want to make it 2 feet wider. And we have an existing walkway that goes in front of our house to our front porch, and that's tarred, and we had our septic system replaced last fall, which we came in front of the commission for. And now that it's been replaced, they had to dig up the walkway, and it's all chopped up, so we were going to have it redone with pavers that go from the back to the front. And so that's what that portion of it is. And then there, at the end of our driveway, Steve actually had come over and looked at the area, and there was an area that looks, that it's being eroded. The water's, the way it's draining, is an area that's eroding. And we have a landscape gentleman that's coming in and going to, he suggested one riprap, and we'd like to do it more environmentally looking nicer with ground cover and bushes. And so he is willing to do ground cover and bushes in that area to stabilize that area.
In concert with riprap, or one or the other?
I would like to have the bushes in the ground cover as opposed to the riprap, because
It's pretty steep. I mean, I actually suggested that. That was
Yep.
not part of any of their proposals.
Yep,
With the riprap?
The erosion area, that's the closest to the wetlands.
Yep.
I went to their property, we talked about all the different things they're looking to do, and just that was screaming out, because it's just a really, really steep drop, a lot of erosion occurring right now.
Mhm.
I do not think just vegetation is enough to hold back that slope, which is why I suggested either a terrace or some riprap in concert with some vegetation.
yeah, and whatever,
Just vegetation is
yeah.
not gonna cut it, the plants are just gonna wash downhill,
yeah.
so.
So we're willing to put the riprap and the ground cover, however you recommend it for us. The landscaper basically said if you could give us some recommendations, specifically if there's better ground cover or bushes that will help support that area better in addition to the riprap.
Yep, I can work with them on
The riprap's
that.
kinda ugly sometimes, and so we're trying to make it look nice.
I mean, you can always do a terrace in there or something.
And oddly enough, this was the topic of our training last night, about how DEP would like to see local commissions get away from riprap when appropriate.
Yeah.
If not, then.
Softer approaches are always
Yeah.
better, and I always recommend that, but if you saw the slope, you put the plant in, it would just roll down the hill.
So Steve, you've obviously been out to the site.
Yes,
What
sir.
is your opinion as far as what's being proposed?
All of the trees being proposed are outside the 50, so they're kind of allowed to be cut down under the
And
regulations.
it's existing property, correct?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not new.
Minus the one tree at that beach at 45 feet. That one is technically a waiver to the regulations.
Which one is that one, Steve?
We
I'm not
removed-
sure if I know which one it is.
Remove 16-inch BLCH 80 by 20, that tree right there. It's measured out at 45 feet from the wetland. It's the closest one to the wetlands.
Oh, okay.
Steve, are there proposed, is there a proposed number of trees to replace those which are being removed?
No, because in my opinion, all the trees that are being proposed to be removed are allowed to be removed
If
by
they're-
law, minus that one tree. And that one tree is damaged and diseased. So at this point, that was not part of the discussion, because in my opinion, it's not really required. There's no waivers being asked for.
Right.
So I don't really see the need to justify asking them to do that.
So
I mean-
you don't see a role the trees play in stormwater
Oh,
management?
of course they do, but it meets the regulations. Usually they go out to clear 40 acres somewhere else, right? They're not replacing the trees because it's not in our jurisdiction. I very much believe the trees have a function, But if it doesn't, if it's not a waiver to our regulations, then we really don't have any jurisdiction to ask of that. If they want to put some trees in, that's great. I can work with them offline to do that.
Well, you do based on the one tree.
Correct. So, but that tree is damaged and has issues, so usually when there's a damaged dead
Yeah,
tree,
right.
it's coming down anyways.
But what I'm saying is, you know, would it be appropriate to replace something else, something smaller, something more
I mean,
appropriate?
you
for
could
the
make an
lawn?
argument for maybe increasing the buffer to the resources, because the lawn goes pretty close to this area. I was gonna go through all my waivers that are, they're looking for waivers for part of the driveway expansion and part of the patio, you know, so if waivers are being asked for, it's just not in the majority of the tree cutting. It's one tree and some asphalt by the driveway. Again, it's increasing it 2 feet wide. I think the 125 square feet is additional or asphalt impervious material. It's not a new driveway, it's just making it more functional, probably making it the width it should have been built originally,
I know.
to be honest with you.
Yeah,
You know, but maybe putting in some vegetation, some additional like blueberries or sweet pepper or something like that along the edge would definitely help improve the situation, especially with all the trees coming down. So, the other issue the DEP is showing this is still under review. So
the
what
DP,
the DEP issued a DEP number, so you're 1610784, but the website an hour ago said under review, which means they haven't finished their review of it yet. I'll be honest with you, on a project of this scope being just buffer work, odds are the DEP is gonna say, no comment, don't worry about it, just go and do it. But it's a little bit of a technicality.
Yeah.
Again, I'll leave that up to the commission how they want to proceed. Typically, we wait till the DEP gives comment back before we close out a project. But again, that's.
Ma'am, what's your timeline for the project? Is something you need, you're doing, want to do immediately, or something you're planning this summer, or?
we actually had a landscaper come back about a month ago. I think Steve was probably at our house about a month ago. And he had given us an estimate of the work, and then we said, okay, now we've got to see what the process is, and that's when we got Steve involved and stuff. So we've got an estimate for the work to be done, and they're just waiting for a green light. We've got an estimate on the tree removal. You know, we've got a lot of the estimates there, but we've just said, brakes on. We've got a public hearing, we've got to do it the right way. I mean, we want to do it the right way. And we want to take care of that eroded area, because we didn't realize it until Steve was there that all that was going on. So we want to be sure that gets taken care of. So we had our landscaper talk with us about it, and he'll do whatever we asked him to do as far as the riprap and the ground cover and everything to get it done.
So I think what Kyle's asking that is, it's hard for the commission to vote on it tonight and close it out, but tonight, I think we can come to a kind of understanding of any outstanding issues and if the commission's okay with the project, but legally, we can't close it out tonight. So we'll get on the next meeting in July.
But if all the issues are resolved at this point, it's
almost
merely a
pro forma.
formality at the next meeting
You
to,
don't have to show up.
Right, but we can't do any work
Correct, you
until
can't start
that.
the work till you get the order of conditions.
There's appeal period.
Is there any way we can let them take that tree down?
Just that one tree. It's
Well,
not that.
Is
it's-
it dangerous?
No, it's not to that, in my opinion,
No.
it's not to
not,
that.
it's
degree.
not an
No, I mean,
emergency
Okay.
order type of
there's
situation.
several trees that are dead, and the
Yeah.
branches, and especially during the winter, they blow and they
Right.
come down. Branches do, but I mean, it's not,
There's
Okay,
nothing to that
I
degree.
just didn't want
It's
us
already-
to
yeah.
wait if it was
If-
something that needed to come
If
down
it was
now.
that bad, I would have allowed them to cut it down real
Within
time.
the
If it was
hour.
an emergency, I
An
can
emergency,
authorize that
yeah.
at any time.
Okay,
I have just a couple of questions. When you initiate the work, do you propose to phase it? Or would you start the work and then just continue until the job is done?
sequencing, from what I think we've got to do is, we got to get the trees down, because we can't do some of the work because it's going to be going on, the equipment's going to go on the land and stuff, so we need to get the trees down and the stubs taken care of. And then, I think we've got to go over to the buffer area. I think that area's got to be taken care of before we start doing all the other stuff around there.
But so it sounds like it would be continuous. You wouldn't cut the trees down and then wait a year.
Oh,
To do-
no, oh, I'm
okay.
sorry, yes,
Okay,
you're right.
'cause that's
It will be
important.
continuous, we want to get the project done. We've got funds set aside so that we can get it done, we want it done right, and we just,
And something else for you to think about. We're coming into a difficult time of the year for plants, for plantings. So it sounds like you want to get the job done sooner than later, but it's oftentimes advantageous to do plantings in the autumn where you increase their, it's more of a wetter season, so you will increase the probability of their survival. You can always water them all the time too, but it's just something for you to think about. So if you spend a lot of money on plantings, and it's hot, it's a hot summer, and they don't get a lot of rain, they could die, so you just have to, spend your money twice.
Yeah,
So something
yeah.
to think about.
Does anyone have any other questions for this particular project? It sounds like we've got a formality that we need a DEP feedback.
Normally, I don't know how long it takes the DEP to do that. I mean, time-wise, I know we sent things out pretty, and we did get the information from the,
National Heritage.
yeah, we got that, but I
They-
didn't
and They
know.
were okay with it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different agencies that get
Yeah.
involved. The DEP is definitely backlogged, but they should have it probably by next week. So definitely by the July 17th meeting, the DEP end will be signed off on.
Yeah.
Is it possible,
Just to vote on it anyways.
well,
I mean, that is,
I
I
don't
didn't
know,
want.
what kind of conditional, is there any mechanism for a
You can-
conditional?
You don't have to, you could actually approve it on both, right? We vote the DEP hat,
Yeah.
the local hat. The DEP has final say over the DEP vote.
Right.
You could actually vote on it, it's not traditionally done. You could vote on both of them, approve both of them. The
Because-
DEP, if they have an issue, will appeal it.
Yeah, because
And
we
you'll get-
represent the DEP, so we're kind of,
But that could save it from
Right.
coming back to another meeting.
And they, but you
Unless
still
they're-
have to wait the
Get it
21
done.
days.
Unless they're appealed.
Unless they're appealed.
And
But,
then-
but the DEP's not gonna appeal this.
No.
Right, so she
It
can be 2
doesn't
weeks in
sound
advance.
like, can you see anything in this that they might appeal?
I was gonna bring it up, it's not traditional, and I don't recommend doing that for big, kind of
no.
very
it's-
squirrely
Yeah.
projects,
Right,
but for
you
something
wanna
like
give-
this.
You want to give them the
Right.
opportunity to comment and not try and.
You can 100%
Who,
vote
the
on
DEP?
it.
Yeah, you undercut,
Okay.
their say, I mean, in this, I agree with Steve, there's probably there's little chance that they're gonna, nix the project or come up with some major changes, but traditionally you don't do that because you're giving your parent agency the opportunity to comment on what you're
Okay.
trying to do.
And also, maybe this would give you time to work with Steve to present a better identification of plants that you propose to have approved.
But does any,
But we were just talking about voting on it tonight. I can work with them offline
Yeah,
on
I
a
mean,
planting plan.
Yeah, that,
does any
We can
commissioner have,
condition-
any commissioner have a problem with the project as it is? I mean, I really don't.
No.
No, my only concern is, as you've pointed out, professional courtesy to E DEP.
They'll appeal it. We get appealed once in a while by them. We have 2 town projects that have been appealed in the past year by the DEP after we approved it.
But that
It's
doesn't,
not-
that doesn't help the applicant either
Yeah, I
if
know.
they do that, because
It's-
it throws another wrench in the gear.
Yeah.
You said it's low probability that
On
happened.
this one, very low. It's all buffer work. DEP cares about actual impact of resources.
But we also look at precedences when we set the way we operate as a commission, that, we have to handle hearings similar fashion.
I think we have done, for precedent's sake, we have done something similar in the past. Again, for like a septic system replacement. Very small, relatively straightforward projects. 20, 50 lot subdivision, I wouldn't recommend this.
Is it a hardship for you to wait for a month, or is that going to
it's,
just be an
it's
annoyance?
been 1 month now, we've got people locked and loaded, and the farther we get into the process, the less chance, as you get into the year, you're gonna be able to get your contractors locked in. So that's our real concern, trying to get the contractor locked in, because we had them locked in a month or so ago, we were thinking mid-June timeframe, and
Right.
now it's like, it could be mid-July or later, and we're just not sure,
What percent is in the buffer zone of the work?
A good amount of it, to be honest with you. Within the 100-foot, almost everything they're proposing is
Oh.
within a 100-foot buffer. So when we talk waivers, there's certain setbacks at 50, 75, and 100. They're encroaching on the they're looking for very few waivers, minor waivers, but the actual work is all very well within our jurisdiction.
But it sounds like the benefit to having that work done actually outweighs the waivers in some respects. So we're going to be
only the
taking
erosion
care of that
control.
erosion. And also, they need that tree taken down.
They do.
So-
But a couple of trees are healthy, good trees that are allowed to be taken down.
Right.
They're not using
But
the
that's out
the
of our
safety
hands.
card. That's out of our hands because it's allowed by law.
Right.
So
So
I wouldn't use too much of the benefit card. getting rid of the erosion is definitely good, it's
Right.
beneficial, but that's the only thing they're doing that environmentally has a benefit.
Okay, but there's an environmental benefit and there's also the homeowner's benefit where
correct.
they're not having a tree on their house.
Very much.
Right.
So what's the commission's pleasure on this?
Good point.
Butters,
That's
Butter
correct. So the,
comments.
they're actually putting,
butter comments.
they're actually putting pavers down instead of asphalt. The previous one was asphalt, and this one's pavers, so
So
it's
that's
actually
an
more,
improvement.
it's more pervious.
Okay,
Thank you, Susan.
super, thank you.
Are there any abutters to 3 Emily Lane? Yea, nay? Well, I don't have any super heartburn with trying to go ahead with this without DP, although, again, it's something we typically don't do, but in this particular case.
We could make it subject to DEP approval, right?
I don't think
No,
we
you
can
can't
do
really
that.
do that, no.
They would issue
No.
a superseding order.
Yeah, they just go over.
Did you need a copy of that went out?
Yeah, do you have one?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, conditional approval is not really,
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
you approve it or you
Yeah.
don't approve it.
Okay.
I actually electronically sent you a
If we-
PDF file,
if
maybe
we
you just
feel
didn't
that
get it, but I
There's
did.
very
Yeah.
little
Thank
chance
you.
of them
Yep.
having an issue with it.
Perfect, thank you very much.
I would be comfortable voting for it now.
I have no heartburn, and I'm usually pretty
You
conservative
have no heartburn?
about that.
Is that what you
Approving
said?
it, yeah. I usually have an issue with that.
He's okay with it.
I usually have issues with
So-
procedural stuff, but.
And
this
I
one,
understand that there are courtesy issues and also perhaps a precedential issue. But I feel like the risk is low and the benefit to the homeowner is quite high.
So I'll entertain motion, any motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I would like to propose a motion to accept the NOI for 3 Emily Lane, GCC 2014-10 and DEP 1610784. Is there a date on the plan there?
12, May 12th.
2014, with work to be carried out in consultation with our agent.
And just elaborating on the work, the planting plan.
Planting plan and the erosion control, I'd like you to have a look at that too.
Thank you.
Native.
Yep,
Plants.
I
Okay.
always do.
That's his middle name. It's the only one we can pronounce.
Did we get a second on
Is there
that?
a second for that?
Second.
Thank you.
There is a
Thank you.
motion that's been seconded to approve the NOI for 3 Emily Lane with the additions of a planting plan and an erosion control to be coordinated with the agent. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? I'll entertain a motion to close the notice of intent for 3 Emily Lane.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the notice of intent hearing on GCC 2014-10 and DEP 161-0784.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded to close the notice of intent for 3 Emily Lane. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, all abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
You'll hear from us next week.
Yeah, next week I'll probably come down and see you. Okay. very
It
good.
being on or
Thank you
after
Mm.
7:10, I'm gonna open up a notice of intent, and I'm not sure this is a new one, for 1 Kinnison Court.
It is new.
It is a new notice of intent. It's level rear yard. This involves decreasing the slope and height of the hill. If I could have the applicant and or consultant, and if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Hi, Mark Turner and Marie Turner.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
So if we could explain a little more what's going on with this particular project.
Yeah, certainly. So what we're trying to do, the objective of the project is obviously the backyard is finished, but we have a big steep hill that we're trying to make usable and level. We have 3 small children, 15 months, 4 years and 6, so we make it as safe as possible for those guys to play. So it's going to involve decreasing kind of the slope of the hill, so excavating a little bit and then also regrading on site as well.
And how close is this work to the resource area?
Maybe 70 feet?
70.
Can I grab the green cards
Yes.
just so I can
Yes.
take care of the administrative side of this?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you
Take a
have
decision?
plans we could
No,
look
it's-
at?
I got the files.
Yes.
Lovely.
Yeah, no.
I'm actually familiar with your site, so where is the work taking?
It's the same hill.
I
So
know.
we
So
previously.
they're taking the top off the hill again?
Yeah, so previously, this commission permitted having that hill lowered about 10 feet. It wasn't lowered enough, I guess. So
Wait a minute, you did?
it was already taken down by a previous owner. We approved that
You did.
5 or 6 years
Are
ago.
you talking the one near the cliff?
Yeah, the
we-
Cliff House.
This was the Cliff House originally.
No, we never approved that.
Uh-uh,
No,
I don't remember that.
no.
They came in, we had a filing, 2005, 2006. I'll send it to you Monday.
I remember that they came in and applied,
Yeah, I don't remember approving that.
and I don't think it was approved.
Uh-oh. Okay. I'll,
I would like to see that documentation.
Did you say it was approved?
yeah, exactly, in the
No, no,
office.
no.
We had quite a conversation
No,
with
we
the
did.
builder of the
Went
house.
on
who-
for a long time.
It did, but it was that to move the house.
Well, it was approved for the house to be built way away from the cliff, and he
Correct.
just decided to
Exactly.
build it like right next to the cliff.
The house had been moved.
I remember the details of the past of this project and why the house was in the wrong spot and the whole, how we got there. Again, my memory is that we approved it. I inspected the work of that hill being cut down 10 feet. These guys are in front of us to lower it additionally. So I think, I'm not sure how that. how
As
it was
I
discussed.
remember, there was a giant retaining wall.
Yeah, there was a long, maybe 4-foot one that led up to the house before the real cliff started.
And you had to squeeze in between
Correct.
the corner of the
Correct.
house and the giant cliff,
That cliff
and
is-
then go out into the yard.
Yep,
So you're saying that that cliff was taken down 10 feet?
yeah, at least.
I thought they applied, well, I seem to remember them applying to take it down like 20.
Yeah, I just,
And
I
did
remember
we
I remember
compromise?
the applicant coming in and
Yep. Yeah.
having a discussion of, at one point did it become an emergency when they poured the
Right.
foundation, when they put up the framing, when they
house
put the
was
roof
there.
on, yeah, you know, well, they came in as an emergency and said,
That's right.
Yeah,
oh, we need to
balanced-
take this hill down. It's like,
When they came in for a building permit, that's what it was, something like that.
So it went to a notice of intent, because they came in and asked for it to be an emergency, and it was an emergency.
must have been somewhere in the twilight zone, because I don't remember that coming in at all as a notice.
I
of intent.
remember
them
Paul
going
saying
away.
he could look in their windows from the top
I
of the
told these
hill.
guys that story. I was with Paul that day, looking down into the second floor window, being like, this is not a good situation.
But, and I remember them being quite rude to Paul over that comment.
So, again, I don't know how that impacts the current application before you.
Okay.
My memory is that it was approved. I have to be honest with you, I didn't pull the old file and send it
Okay.
off to you guys, because I usually don't, I usually go based on that.
Okay, so it's work between the 75 and the 100, it
That's
looks
what
like.
I'm trying to focus on.
Yeah, I remember this was like a,
But it's not working.
It's not.
Steve, this
Huge
is all
cliff.
work between the 75 and the
Correct.
100, basically.
No waivers being asked, and they actually were really good about pushing it. They could have gone further. They could have gone close to the 50, where a waiver could have been requested.
Okay.
They really worked well. I worked with them before they submitted this, and we kind of limited it to just around the 75 feet. So this is allowed by law.
Oh, sure.
100%. It's almost a rubber stamp
I
type
was
of
just
exercise.
confused.
Yeah,
I had a time warp problem.
no worries. That's why I'm here. Again, similar to the last project, we do have, the only outstanding issue that I see is the DEP is still waiting on the fee to clear, the check to clear, so the DEP hasn't signed off on it yet. Like the previous project, for things similar to this, the commission still could vote on it tonight. You gotta wait the 21-day appeal period, though, just to make sure, because it's more likely to get appealed when we vote on something before it's 100% ready with the DEP.
Yeah,
But again,
I-
that's up to the
I
commission to
definitely
decide.
want to see that previous filing.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I remember having
I don't
quite a
remember it
lively
yesterday.
discussion about that whole thing.
Getting old.
Oh, it was a
many
big
years ago?
old discussion.
5 or 6.
Oh, no, if it was 2005, 6.
The gentleman one
Was
of the
it
gentlemen who was involved building was a building inspector
That's right.
who claimed he didn't know any of this stuff.
That's exactly what happened.
Look out the window.
So how would you guys like to proceed?
Stop your trip down memory lane.
After the meeting, you guys want to hang out and chat?
Yeah.
These guys will come back, you can share stories about the Cliff House. but-
Yeah, that's kind of the nickname of the house.
So
Art.
what recommendations and findings has our agent come up with?
It's a paper pushing exercise, it meets the regs, and they're very far away from the buffer. It's not even close to a waiver.
Do you think
the
any
erosions-
mitigation is warranted?
No,
Plantings just to enhance the site?
They're not asking for waivers, it's hard to ask for mitigation. Erosion control, the water's flowing the opposite direction. If they don't put erosion control and worry about that, it's gonna set sediment towards the house, not towards the wetlands, which is more their problem, not ours. So there's really not much they need to do.
Well, if it meets the regulations, you know, it's technically allowable.
But DEP's not even gonna look at it. It's a
But-
buffer
Right.
work. It meets our regulations, their regulations are even less stringent.
Again, my curiosity more is the previous issue of how we got to where we're at.
Yeah. And I will follow up with that Monday.
And that's certainly not these folks' fault. That's a previous situation of how the house got where it is in the
That was
first
quite
place.
an episode.
Because this house was never approved in this location. It was
No.
supposed to be many feet away from that cliff to begin with.
It's not a cliff anymore.
No.
That's something, because that was quite a precipice.
That was amazing.
And you are satisfied with the erosion control as proposed?
You don't need it towards the resources, because it's uphill. It's a very weird
Sounds weird.
situation. 'cause
it
it's
was
up, and
kinda
then it
like
goes back
this.
down.
Then it goes, then it slopes down
wetland
with
is
the
actually the
resources on
other
the other
side.
side.
Sounds like you could ski to the place, the Cliff House. Sounds
They
quite
serve
nice.
hot chocolate.
It's more of a hill now. Yeah,
The Hill House.
I'm recommending approving it, just for simplicity's sake. There's no reason to continue it and hold off on it.
Okay, all righty. Never thought the words would come past my lips, but, Mr. Chairman, I propose we accept the NOI for 1 Kinson Court, GCC 2014-11, and DEP once, we don't even have a number.
Exactly.
Oh, we can't,
We
technically,
can't.
we can't
We need
approve
the
of that
number.
DEP
I'm
file.
sorry, I would have, but we don't have a DEP number.
I got
Why
in
not?
trouble for that once.
Did you really?
Yeah, I didn't know.
I thought it was just an administrative thing.
We can't, we're not,
If they
I
haven't-
actually had to had the commission rescind the
Doesn't
approval
have
at
the
the
last
following
4
meeting.
digits.
Yeah, I got spanked for that one.
Why is it, yeah, it's highlighted.
Yeah, that means it doesn't have
That's
a
right.
number.
Yeah, there's
We-
one thing,
they-
if, the one
161
thing if it's an
is
approval, but
Georgetown,
they've issued a number.
And then
but
after
you don't have
that
a number.
is identifies the
But they
project.
have it in their system. They received it.
There'll probably
It
be a
exists.
number issued tomorrow.
So can you approve it and I'll write the DEP number in Monday? Because we handwrite stuff in all the time.
Shh.
No, just in general, like if we do something blank, if we don't know what date it's gonna get approved, we write the decision and you leave the date blank. You just handwrite it in. We handwrite stuff in all the time.
But, I mean, how do we know that's in their system?
You said check approval, right?
Because it's check wrote. So on the DEP website, it has 1 Kinson Court, and then.
Does it have a number?
No, because it says check, it's waiting for check to clear.
I see.
So it's in their system,
The
they've
number
received
sign.
it.
I'm
Again,
sorry, I don't know
they're
that we
backlogged,
can,
so.
I don't,
Your comfort level as far as,
I'm not comfortable with that.
Okay,
I don't
that's
know
fine.
why,
You're not comfortable with,
with approving it without even a DEP number
Yeah,
or whatever. I think that's
I'd like to see at least a
tippy-toeing
number.
over the line too far.
learn from my mistake.
Pardon?
I made that mistake
Oh,
once.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had to rescind it at the next meeting and it was
Gee.
just,
big
And then
deal.
you would wait 2 months or 3 months
it was a big deal for
instead of 1
nothing.
month.
It was just
Okay.
administrative. So,
So administratively, we have to continue it to July. You don't have to go to the meeting. Because it sounds like the commission was about to approve it if it wasn't. for
Any
technicality.
commission have any issue with this particular?
No.
I
Or
know some of you
abutters.
haven't been there, but
Or butters, we haven't opened up butters,
I'll
so.
open it up to butters in a moment here. No issues at this point from commissioners. Are there any butters to 1 Kinson Court? Yea or nay? No butters. Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to continue to the next available hearing.
July 17th, first thing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to continue GCC 2014-11, DEP no file number issued as of yet, to July 17
7 o'clock, please.
at 7 p.m. for the pending issuance of the DEP file number.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to continue 1 Kensington Court to July 17th at 7 p.m. We are awaiting a DEP number. Is there any other comments?
Other than to just inform the applicant that it's primarily administrative. As our agent pointed out, there's really no need for you to attend the meeting. It'll take us 30 seconds.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It's okay.
Thank you,
It's
I
out of our
appreciate it.
hands, really.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, all abstaining.
Thank you.
Thank you, sorry about that.
Thank you.
That's okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. That's the time on the Sunday. It being on or after 7:20, I'm going to open up Tids Junkyard GCC 2007-11. And it's a complete site remediation under Chapter 21E, followed by construction of a 16-unit senior housing development with associated grading roadways, septic, utilities, stormwater management structures, and portions within the 100 BVW. And also concurrently, I'm going to open up Tids Junkyard GCC 2007-12, and that's the revision on the plan to construct 16-unit senior housing development with associated grading and septic and stormwater utilities, etc., within the BVW. If I could have the applicant and or consultant, and if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
I don't see the LSP here. He is supposed to be coming. If we can maybe table it and deal with it in a few minutes, because we're
Well,
already back.
it's already open, so we'll move on. I can,
We can hit it later.
as long as I open it
Why
up
would we
after
do
7.
that and just not continue it? Because
He's got to withdraw anyway.
I know, but it would be, actually, if he comes in, we can discuss it under the enforcement order. So we can do that if you would like.
Okay.
Continue it to July 17th at like 7:10.
7:01.
That's fine.
Rash.
We got to move things along. So,
Mr. Chairman, I propose that we continue
That's fine.
the Tids Junkyard hearing, GCC 2007-11, DEP 1610666, GCC 2007-12, 1610661, to the meeting on July 17th at 7:01.
And 7:02.
All right, 7:02.
There's two of them.
Oh, and
7:01.
7:02.
7:01 and
Super.
7:02.
Lovely, thank you.
And do we have a second for that?
second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded to continue GCC 2000-11 to 7:01 on July 17th, and GCC 2007-12 to 7:02 on July 17th. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, all abstaining. Done.
Nice, moving along.
You like when they don't show up.
Sorry, what?
You like when they don't show up.
Oh,
It being on or after 7:30, I'm going to open up notice of intent, or that's a continuation of East Main Street, GCC 2014-09. That's Georgetown East Main Street Skate Park Project, including the construction of a gravel road parking lot, concrete skate park, gravel dog park, pony league baseball field, etc. And if I could have the applicant and or consultant, and if you could identify yourself, please.
So at this point, the third-party reviewer is reviewing the project, and in an attempt to kind of save on consulting fees, the applicant's requested a continuation. Let the consultants work through it so that once it gets back to the commission, a lot of any outstanding issues can be resolved and we can streamline things. So looking to continue it to the next possible meeting. I do not believe there's any major issues with the review, so I'm very hopeful by the next meeting we'll have it pretty buttoned up.
super.
Okay.
My turn?
Go,
I'll-
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to continue GCC 2014-09, DEP 161-0783, to remand to the applicant for further proceedings consistent with our peer review. And the date for that is July 17th at
7:10?
7:10.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded to continue the notice of intent for East Main Street at GCC 2014-09 to July 17th at 7:10 PM. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All abstaining?
We're only 10 minutes late.
That'll change.
That's right.
He's already figured it out.
It's time.
It being on or after 7:40, I'm going to open up a notice of intent, continuation for 11 Winter Street. That's the renovation of a natural grass athletic field to include related stone base, earthwork, grading, drainage improvements, parking renovations, and installation of athletic lighting, and an infill synthetic turf field. If I could have the applicant and a consultant, and if you could identify yourself, please, for the record.
I believe so, yeah. They're calling it different. High school. For improvements. High school.
They say,
I gave to them. This came out late,
I know.
an hour ago. You saw it.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, we've received, really just a few hours ago, just prior to our meeting, our peer review. I trust everyone has seen it. If not,
For this project?
Yeah.
No, I
2
haven't.
hours ago.
yeah, about 2 hours ago.
No, I was at the hospital, so I couldn't see
This
it.
is, for the record, this is the BSC report dated June 19th, 2014. Peer review of supplemental information. It's entitled here, Georgetown Middle High School Athletic Field Improvements.
I did give a copy to the applicant's engineer, but you read it over, but not with enough time to probably address all the issues, but.
Sorry, what was
Not that good.
Can I just have your names again? I'm sorry.
I'm John Perry. I'm with Gale Associates. I'm the applicant's engineer.
I'm Mark Perry with GAA and the Turf Committee.
And I'm John Pingree from the GAA and the Synthetic Turf Advisory Committee also.
John, is it 6/19, the date on that peer review?
Yeah, do you want to say it?
Yes.
Do you have it?
That's okay, there aren't many
It's-
copies. Do we?
Yeah, it's, take a while to read that. All right. So,
So we verbally discussed some of these with Jillian yesterday. Lindsay from my office, who's out of town, so
okay.
I wasn't privy to all of those, all that discussion. I did read this over in the audience here a few minutes ago. We did discuss kind of internally yesterday how, although Jillian has a few items remaining here, it's my opinion that some of these are kind of crossing your T's, dotting your I's sort of thing, details. They do, all the stormwater is addressed. PSC has opined that the project is a betterment to the ecological areas in the riverfront, and that we comply with all of the local bylaws. A lot of the comments in this letter are requiring us to show a little more detail along the bank, maybe do a little more restoration, planting, things like that, which we could certainly do. In order to, what the hope is to go out to bid fairly soon for this project. That's our hope. the people who bid on these things like to get work in the fall. Now is the time to get up to that. What that does is it could save the town a lot of money by having that construction starting kind of in the off season. You know, all these types of jobs usually done around middle of August, September. So we'd be looking to start around middle of August, September, or maybe a little bit earlier than that. So there could be some cost savings there as well. We feel that we've addressed all of the major concerns and comments, and I would, I guess, in an ideal situation, maybe we could incorporate some of these with conditions. I don't know if that's something that would be considered or not, but I would ask that to be considered, I guess.
Have you read it over, Steve?
Seems to be, as you pointed out, seems to be some additional information that's being requested, even pursuant to DEP comments. The information is missing. Do you have a wetlands consultant on staff that's addressing this issue?
We have, yes, well, we have a
Not engineers, but a wetlands scientist.
Lindsay is our in-house wetlands person. She's not as experienced as probably Jillian, something like that, but we do a lot of engineering towards wetland restoration, things of that nature, in-house, and oftentimes we'll use a consultant, but
So you say that a lot of this is just small minor details. One of the comments, the third paragraph, discuss with Gail the need to further address DEP comments. A number of DEP comments require additional information. Site plan should show the 100-year floodplain. Site plans should include detailed drawings for all work proposed within the bank, BVW, bordering land subject to flooding. These are some basic omissions.
I wouldn't look at it that way. I don't know specifically which of these DEP comments she is saying that are missing or not completed. I would have to get a handle on that. But as far
Are we
as
just getting these comments today?
Yeah.
So this is the first he's
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
of these?
yeah.
Yeah, we haven't seen them either.
We haven't
I know,
seen
why,
it.
why is it like today we get these? I mean,
Right.
is it couldn't have been like 3 weeks ago, so he could have come a little more prepared for answering
And
these
we
questions
could be
instead of.
prepared,
Yeah.
too.
What's that?
And
It
we
leaves-
could
it
be
leaves none of us
prepared.
Yeah, well, this is your consultant. I
complicated.
know, this is frustrating that
It
we would be
is.
sitting here now again, when January was supposed to be our first meeting, and now we're into June, and it's
Well-
extension, and it's a consultant of your board that won't give the
Well,
information
That's
back.
not why we're delayed. The flagging wasn't done in the field in a timely manner, so when Jillian came up, our third-party reviewer came up to originally review the site, half the flags were missing. So she couldn't do her review. Then there was a delay, then they had to go back out, rehang it. So you can't put this on Jillian, our consultant. She scheduled it, she went out there, she did her job, she started it within like a week of the signed contract. She had to go back 2 weeks later to review the wetland delineation. They don't start doing the heavy lifting on the engineering until they confirm the wetland line. It took over a month to get the wetland line delineated because she was waiting on Gail to reflag the wetland so she could start the review.
But they were reflagged before this last meeting,
When
correct?
she went out there, they were not. The first meeting, she went out there in between that, after that
May
month.
May 19th, we met, they were already flagged, correct?
When she went out after that point, the flags were not there.
I thought they were.
Well,
that was a while back.
that was a while
Yeah.
back.
That was before the May 9th. We've had 30 days in between here.
With the flag, did somebody take the flags out?
No, it was flagged before the May 19th meeting. But
So-
we've had 30 days, again, with just we stressed in this last meeting, we're under a critical timeline. One, the school can't use this field in the fall. They're gonna spend thousands of dollars to transport all these teams off of this field. They're gonna lose thousands of dollars in home gate money. And if we don't get this contract and this project started in the fall, and so that we can use it in the spring, we're gonna spend thousands of dollars in the spring to transport teams off of these fields again.
Did your consultant know this?
Yeah,
Your contractor?
yeah, they
They
know
know the
this.
timeline, we have a whole bid.
So I
we-
guess
everything we
why
put in has
wasn't
had a
the wetlands-
timeline.
Why wasn't the wetlands lines?
It was lined before the last meeting. It was definitely lined. We had 2 meetings without a quorum going back. I mean, it was lined before the last meeting.
Yeah, what happened was we flagged the wetlands in, I think it was October or November. And then and we submitted in January for the notice of intent. And when Jillian came on board to do her peer review, that was March, somewhere around there. And between October and March, I think some of the wetland flags were, someone might have picked them and thrown them to the side or something like that. So we went back out with Jillian together so that we can make sure that the line was how everyone wanted it. And that occurred in March at some point.
Right.
So that from that point on, we've been working with BSC to resolve some issues.
So you don't see any of the issues, I mean, you read it real quick, I apologize for the last minute.
No, that's
I
not
just
your
got-
fault.
You don't see any enormous issues with it?
I don't. A lot of this is, she says, to show the 100-year floodplain on the plan, which
It's easy to do.
we've called that out a few times as being on the 80 contour, I
Well,
think. Things like
Are you
that.
willing to address what is in that report?
Yes.
Well, that's simple then. So a lot of this, one other just comes to mind, BSC, Gail has provided written requests for bylaw waivers. BOC recommends that the applicant discuss appropriate levels of mitigation
I think,
for the requested waivers with
yeah.
BSC.
I think part of it is, they don't have a problem with addressing the issues. The problem is timing that you guys are bringing up, that the timing of getting all these things answered, and
Well,
is July 17th a deal breaker from you? If it sounds like all these issues can be resolved in the next week and a half.
But we're not starting this project in August if we're sitting here in July.
Yeah, we have to go out for, we have to do a public bid process.
But you can go to bid.
Advertise.
But you can
And if
go
there's a
with the public,
if there's a minor modification, you can add it. I mean,
Yeah.
all these things are, it's technicalities. The site guy doesn't care where the floodplain line is.
yeah.
So you could go out to bid on it as is now.
Oh, yeah, you could do that.
Why do we need the floodplain line?
But the floodplain line is on the drawings. I mean, I don't know how many times we have to go over this. It's on the drawings.
But if
I'm
it's-
sorry,
I've
I'm just
looked at it 10
responding to a
times.
paragraph in here that says they're
Yeah.
not. So I'm curious, like, they've disappeared since the last time, and why do we need the floodplain line?
Again,
To
she's-
pass this project, to
It says
approve
here,
this
in order to
project?
comply with state and town regulations.
Okay,
They look at the letter of the law in every
Okay.
little detail.
So we
They
are-
want the i's dotted and the t's crossed.
okay. I need some time to I need to be able to digest what she's saying in here. And I just need to understand what she's saying in here.
Yep.
So, this paragraph about the floodplain line, that is a technicality that she says something's missing from the plans that have been submitted. Something, okay, great.
And that
I
could be-
understand
It
that.
seems like it could be easily
Well,
added.
showing the
Exactly.
elevation,
And would it be possible for that to be added
It's
in a-
semantics.
in a
Supplemental.
in a
later.
supplemental plan?
Easily.
All right, okay, so that's not a deal breaker. I'm looking at this as not a deal breaker, okay?
What else do we have? Again, I don't
All
have a
right,
copy, I
I
haven't
have
even
no
read the
clue,
thing.
I'm sorry, Carl.
No, I mean,
So
go
here.
ahead, you're doing all right.
So, this, where it says, work proposed on is subject to the riverfront protection area performance standards at 310, that demonstrates how they're met. It can apply to areas currently lacking, okay, so this relates to the fact that they're changing it from a field that has topsoil to a field that has no topsoil, how they're going to manage the removal, and how that's going to work.
That could be part of the conditioning.
I think that that's what this is talking about, and that can be handled in the order of conditions. Am I right?
Can be.
So her objections in here, just off the top of my head, reading briefly, look also to not be a deal breaker because that can be handled in the OOC.
How are you gonna condition it? I'm gonna write these down as we go through.
Okay.
So we can keep track.
So we can condition the way that they handle the removal of the topsoil.
Can I just state something?
Sure.
The topsoil is being removed based on an agreement through the town because it has arsenic.
Oh, it's already gone?
Well, no,
No, but they have a plan in place.
we have a plan in
Okay.
place.
So that's already been taken care of. Super.
Do we have that in the documentation?
That was
That's gonna
bid,
go.
that was bid separately, 200 and, it went to town for approval to.
But we haven't seen the, so this is saying that we don't, the commission doesn't know how this is being removed.
No, it was given, it had to have been, it had to have come here, right?
I haven't seen it.
Not to
I
go
don't
through
I
town
don't
meeting,
believe-
it doesn't.
Yeah. Everyone
So,
will come
I
to
guess to Laura's point, a condition would be that that proposal will be submitted to the commission and it resolves that issue.
Okay.
The requirements for a riverfront alternatives analysis and determination of no significant adverse impact are very specific. Jeepers.
Yeah, it's,
Jeepers.
Mumbo
This is
jumbo.
such an annoyance.
What is?
It's just,
You can condition it that they resolve these issues.
Thank
Well,
you.
that's what I
Let's
wa-
do
That's
that.
what I was gonna suggest, instead of trying to do it, sentence by sentence, literally.
Because I don't
condition the-
understand.
Condition the whole thing, this
So why
entire
don't
thing
we-
is
Right.
part of
So-
the condition. The applicant must address,
So the applicant, so the
line item by
motion-
line item, everything in there.
John, make a motion.
wait a minute. I just want to know, can we just go through? It would really make me feel better if we could
If
just
it
go
makes
through.
you feel better,
Thanks, hun. So this is all about dealing with the soil, right?
I don't know. Read on, read on.
It's
lot of it
written
is,
in
yeah,
a
that-
foreign language. Someone who
Well, I have an
understands
idea.
his
I have an idea.
language,
Just-
tell me.
He already read it. Do you want to go
What
through
is
it?
it?
and give us
Yeah.
a quick
I can
and dirty-
summarize each paragraph. The
Perfect.
paragraph that you're,
Thank you.
the paragraph that you're on right now is the last paragraph on the first page, and it talks about there are performance standards in 310 CMR, which is the Rivers Protection Act.
Yeah.
And it talks about performance standards within the Rivers Protection Act. And by the letter of the law, an area with topsoil is not considered a previously degraded area by the letter of the
Okay.
law. I would argue, and I think a lot of people would agree, that this site, being an athletic field, is a previously disturbed area. It's not a woodland, and we've argued that in the past, and
Okay.
it seems
So
to make
there's a
sense.
very big difference between a virgin field and this,
It's
and this.
Certainly a disturbed
Area.
area.
It
Correct.
certainly
Okay,
is.
all right.
And then
Aerated, seeded, fertilized, run over.
Irrigated.
Beat up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
And
get
then,
that.
and it talks about alternative analysis. The Rivers Protection Act, before you disturb area in the riverfront area, wants the owner to perform an alternatives analysis. Are there other options? And Jillian here states in the last line that our alternative analysis appears to comply with the bylaws.
Super, love that.
And on the next page, page 2, on the first full paragraph, she wants to see the site plans to have detailed drawings, both plan view and cross-section for all work proposed in the bank and a few other areas here. Road and sediment controls and a plant restoration plan, so that's easy. But she wants to see some cross-sections where we're going through the head wall areas,
Okay.
which we actually have on there already.
Yeah.
I think we could probably add a little detail and satisfy some comments there. I did bring some photographs of the head walls.
okay, we
You guys don't probably need
we
to see
get it,
that.
we get it. Next
Yep.
one.
Okay.
So that's another conditionable,
Yeah.
a conditionable item.
Number 5 and 10.
Number 5 and 10 paragraph. There's only a portion of the buffer zone shown on one of
So
the
that's
wetland
easy to
areas.
show, you can show that, that's easy.
Yeah, I
Next.
mean,
It's a line.
some of these things are easy, but the question comes in terms of an approval. We have a plan, a plan that needs some modifications to it.
What we'll do is, when we address all of these issues and add some final, detail for construction, maybe we need to add a couple more spot grades here and there, something like that. What we'll do is provide the commission with a full set of the final construction drawings.
Normally, when we approve, we actually have a specific rev plan date, et cetera, to approve a stamped drawing. In this case, we're not gonna have,
Well, we can accept the most latest, greatest. A lot of these are not really changes of the grade or.
no, they're
significant
not,
changes.
they're not
It's
huge,
like-
but.
It's a legend type of.
A standard condition that I've seen a lot as well is that we will provide the commission with the final construction set. Whether or not it's a revised NOI set, a lot of people don't particularly care. It's just, we want to have the final construction set, to know that when the agent goes on site, that they have the construction drawings. So I guess that's semantics.
So before work starts, we need to have plans that contain
Correct. Complete
everything on
plans.
here
Yes.
I would,
that is
And-
missing.
Right, and
I would
Right.
do like within a month. Don't do before construction starts, because then
Okay.
it's like people
No.
forget
Okay.
about it.
that's too late.
Or
but-
bid, we don't care, you can.
Well,
But this is,
yeah.
The detail.
this is,
Right.
this is what else I would suggest. And maybe, you might not agree with this, but I would like the language when we condition this pursuant to the June 19th report, that a draft, modifications be made pursuant to this report in draft form submitted to the agent and the commission for review and approval. That gives us the authority to review, and then if we're happy with them, we can approve it.
I'm
'Cause-
sorry, the plans will be submitted to us in draft form.
Well, they'll be
And
submitted
then-
to us, and we review
Right,
them and approve them.
right, and,
Perfect.
and then we can defer to our because in other words, Mr. Chairman, they can submit, if we don't say submitted for review and approval, they could submit something on a napkin.
You know, the question is, when we close the hearing, we close the hearing.
Yeah, but they're not gonna meet the requirement of the conditions. So if we have a condition that says you will submit within a month.
Right, it's conditioned.
This,
Right.
if they don't, then the permit's gone.
Right.
We've done it before for open space. If the applicant doesn't donate the open space within a
Or-
year, the permit's gone.
Another way procedurally to do this is to close the hearing, continue to July 17th, pending submission of a draft plan for review and approval at the July 17th meeting, and then we approve that. I've done that. In other words, we close the hearing, so the public comment period is over, no further information will be received, no further information will be requested. So essentially, so at the July 17th meeting, it's merely an administrative item to,
That doesn't help them.
No,
Yeah,
no.
but then we gotta go out
That-
to bid, it's a public
You're gonna
bid.
go out to bid at the same time either
Right.
way.
Right.
You're gonna
Yeah.
submit it tomorrow, whether we close it tonight and you
Yeah.
send the stuff in, or we vote at the next meeting. The plans aren't gonna change.
No, I'd like to,
It'd
I'd
be
like to
nice to
find a
have
way
the-
to, I'd like to find a way to, approve the plan and, you know, have it finished in a sense as much as we can without the complexities of having the hearing open and continuing, et cetera.
You can do it either way. It's not typically done. Both ideas are not traditional. I mean, the traditional way is to wait till the next meeting, everything's addressed and resolved, and we
That's,
move
we've
on.
done that for
Oh, is that
years and
possible?
years and years.
Well, I just feel that, you just said that what's being proposed is not going to change. What is going to change is what is written on a piece of paper. So I don't feel that there's any valid reason for us to hold it up until we get another piece of paper. If we can condition a response
I
to
don't-
all of these.
I don't mind those things being
Issues.
conditioned, I just wanna make sure that I've
John made
got
it-
a finished plan.
John made a good motion that, I like that, you know, any modifications within a month will be submitted for approval by the commission. So it brings it back and you get an initial approval, another step where you can revert back and say, okay, we didn't get what we asked for. So, you know,
Okay, but they can
If it's-
still
they can
go
go
out to bid, they can do what they need to do,
But
and
is
we
the-
need
is the
to
he-
do what
is the
we need
hearing
to
still
do.
open at this point?
no, this idea is to close it tonight, approving it with
Well,
the
you know,
condition.
Do
you
we
need to
revoke their
rephrase
EOC?
it, you said close it, you mean you'd have to approve it
We're
tonight.
approving and then
There's a
closing.
difference between closing and
we're
approving.
conditionally approving.
Conditional approvals aren't typically done.
No, it's not.
But it's a town
Another-
project,
Wait a
Another
minute,
option.
can I ask a
an-
question? Oh, sorry.
Another option
Mm.
is the
special meeting option.
the dreaded special meeting.
We won't get a quorum. We've
No,
tried them
I
before.
I
But
prefer
we
not
could
to
do it 9
that.
a.m., 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning before everybody goes to work.
I go to work well before that.
We could do it
I've already
at.
worked 3 hours by the time
well,
you get
Mr.
out of
Chairman,
bed.
you go to work at 4 a.m., so we could do it at 3:30 a.m.
So I-
You've seen us at 10:30? Oh my God, what would we be like at 8:30,
So
3:30?
I would not recommend that, just from, I've been here 10 years, we've never had a
Yeah.
special meeting.
I
go
throw it
through.
out just as an administrative
Right.
option.
Can I ask
Wanna
a
look at the
question?
conditions
So,
in the language?
To get them all
Yeah.
taken care of, hopefully within a week.
That's why I say, like, in a month, they'd be resolved. They're gonna respond to Jillian next week. Then
But they
Jillian
can
will get a
move
chance
forward
to-
if they get approved tonight?
Isn't it common to close the hearing
We don't do
and then
that.
issue an order of conditions?
We do everything
Yeah.
usually at one time, done. You know, we don't usually.
When would it be closed? When
right after we vote on it. So they'd vote, motion to approve order of conditions.
Then we motion to close it right afterwards.
Okay.
We're just trying to come up with
Yeah.
options
Oh, yeah.
to help us out.
Yeah.
here.
No,
Can I
yeah.
ask a question?
Sure.
I want you
If-
to raise your hand.
So you wouldn't close,
The young lady.
We would close it tonight
so
also.
you wouldn't close it until you had a final order of conditions?
That's one option, or we can just close it tonight. In a condition.
With a conditional approval,
Right.
that all conditions in this be met.
It doesn't really matter. You guys can go, whether we close it tonight, we issue it tonight, you do it, if the plan doesn't really change that much and your bidding documents don't change, it really doesn't matter.
Right.
It does not matter at all, because nothing's gonna change that much between now and
Let
July
me ask a
17th.
question. Can you gentlemen have a completed
And you're not
plan
gonna
with these
deny it.
modifications by the next meeting? So if we would approve this tonight by the 17th, you would have a revised plan for us addressing these things.
Then we can close it.
Yes.
And then that's, yeah, and then
So-
that's
That's
administrative.
cleaner. That's cleaner.
One
So
minute.
we accept it, issue an OOC, and we don't close it till the next meeting.
Correct.
Okay, that's nice. Nice.
Say that again?
That's nice.
It's very nice.
No, just to make sure that's correct, that's not gonna change anything for you guys. You can still go
Well,
out to
just making
bid.
sure they're comfortable
Just as
going
long
out
as
to
we're
bid
not
like
sitting
that.
here in August,
No.
you know,
no.
or sitting here in
See,
September.
it's- see,
As
a
long as
lot-
we get everything we want
See,
by that date.
The only concern I have is that we usually would like to put the order of conditions in the bid package so that the contractor is tied to
Right.
meeting all of those orders of conditions.
Is it, how does the commission feel about having our agent supply the applicant with a draft
Yeah.
order of conditions, which essentially would,
It's already written.
It
It's
will
all
be,
written.
yeah,
Just
exactly.
add a
It's supposed to
section
be-
add a section, section 10 that addresses the applicant shall
I
address.
can do that.
Right.
Yeah, we'll put it as, because you're
Yeah.
gonna draft it up anyhow before the 17th, and we'll just put that in the bid documents in the
Right,
draft, and
Yeah.
and if anything changes.
and I've
then
done
we
that.
can-
So,
It's fine.
I know you're frustrated, but so are we. It's a bureaucracy, and we're trying to figure out.
It comes on the last day, so he doesn't have a chance to prepare
Well,
himself.
one way to have handled this would be to not accept this because it's past the deadline and just continue to July. And we didn't want to do that,
Yeah.
so.
So we're
No, I
looking,
think that this works, is what we're talking
Conditional it.
about.
I'll send you Monday the draft,
Yeah.
not to be signed, obviously.
Yeah, that's
But
fine.
it's gonna be the exact same document, it's gonna be back here
Stamp
on
a
the
draft,
17th.
stamp a draft. something
Okay.
like
Yeah,
that.
that's fine.
What happens if we actually issue an order of conditions and then we don't get what we need from them? Do we rescind
You're getting
the
it.
order of
We
conditions?
would, no,
You're getting
What
it.
if?
because the language in the motion and in the order of conditions, we would condition it that it must be a draft submitted, reviewed, and approved
Okay.
by the Conservation
It covers it.
So we do
Okay.
not relinquish any of our responsibilities under state or local law.
And if we started
Okay.
construction without an approved order of conditions, then we would be in violation
It's an
under
AO.
the Wetlands Protection Act
Right.
and subject to
Right,
fines.
Okay.
right.
And you are not thinking of starting construction until August? I mean, you're going to
Well,
be
they've
spending
got-
the next month going out to bid
Right.
and doing all
Yeah.
that stuff.
It's a public bid, so
Organizational stuff.
There's time and everything that has to
Right.
pass here.
So there's no danger of you heading out there with your shovels?
I don't think there's a risk at this point,
Okay.
as proposed for either
Before
side.
that
They
was-
get what they want, the
Yeah.
commission gets what they want, and we're clean.
So
Okay.
I suggest you continue on with your bidding process, get all the stuff, we'll get the draft, and circle, what's 21 days from July 17th? Circle that on your calendar, and that's when you can start,
Start digging.
But we have-
assuming nobody appeals.
Yeah, but we have to start based on the bid, whatever, you know,
But you
when,
can just go ahead, do
Yeah.
that Monday morning, start
So
your
when
stuff.
did you
Yeah.
want to start?
we'd like to start in August.
We have a whole time, do you
Okay.
have a timeline by any
Yeah.
chance when the,
I don't have it with me.
But that's their end, so
Yeah,
they have to
that
bid it.
is their
That's your
That's their
thing, all we
problem,
wanna
not
do
ours.
I
is,
want to say August 9th was the date we were looking at. I don't know why August 9th, I don't know, I have there's a whole cycle series of,
So,
a calendar that we have to meet.
So we really should move on.
23,
okay,
30,
okay, so,
30, so that would be around August 7th.
yes,
You would, yes, that would be around August 7th. That would be the end of your
Appeal period.
appeal period, and you could start work after
I
that.
think
Does
that
that work
works.
for you?
That's actually around the time.
I thought August 9th was the date, wasn't it? Yeah.
We're
okay.
2 days early.
That was the first one.
Carl, ask if there's any more
All right.
comments.
We have a revised one, I haven't seen a copy of it.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we did
So-
out much.
We need to check with the
Are
budget.
Yeah.
Are there any butters to this project? Yes, no?
Moving along.
No butters?
They're all here in support.
Okay, that's
Mr.
fine.
Chairman,
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion,
Not emotion.
I make a motion.
Emotion.
Without a motion to, which one are we? What's? It is.
It's an emotional
11
motion.
Winter Street.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to issue an order of conditions approving the work pursuant to
What's the latest greatest plan date?
latest greatest plan date?
Revised through June 12th.
Revised through June 12th. A conditional approval based upon the applicant's response to the BSC Group peer review dated June 19th, 2014. The conditional approval is dependent upon the applicant submitting a draft revised plan pursuant to the BSC report to the agent and our commission for review and approval
By
by
Seventeen.
July 17th, and we request that revised plan submitted by 1 week earlier.
Okay, July 10th.
I mean, it's gonna need time for Jillian to look at it one more time, so
Well,
you
we'll-
guys are gonna do this next week.
Yeah.
But-
We'll try to work with her. We'll come up with a plan and we'll work with her to make sure that everything is just right.
Just give us something we can approve,
Yeah.
and it'll take us 30 seconds.
Yep.
That's not part of my motion.
Delete that.
Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to conditionally approve the notice of intent. With the,
Did you lose your place?
yes,
That one.
yeah, GCC 2014-01, and addressing the comments from BSC. And the applicant will submit said information, a draft by 17 July.
No, earlier.
No.
Early, 10 July.
10 July.
10 July.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining?
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
we'll do what we can.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just talk to Jillian and
So
get
in
it
this
done.
case,
Yeah,
we're
we
not
will.
gonna, we're not gonna close it.
And we're not closing.
So we're going to continue.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we need to continue
Okay.
this.
Mr. Chairman, I propose a motion to continue the hearing for 11 Winters Street, GCC 2014-01, and DEP 1610775-2, July 17th at 7:30.
30?
We have a second.
Aye.
We have a motion that's been seconded to continue 11 Winter Street to July 17th at 7:30. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining?
Pardon? No.
I did.
It being on or after 7:50 PM, I'm going to open up a new notice of intent for One Industrial Way, a waiver requesting for wetland filling. If I could have the applicant and our consultant. And so noted that it's also an enforcement order.
Hi, sir. Let me give a quick little overview of how we got to where we are.
Please do.
There was an original kind of enforcement action that I did to pretty much cease and desist all work on property due to some wetland work, buffers, activities, kind of some question about actually what was going on. At the last meeting, the commission heard that as in a discussion forum, modified the enforcement order to allow work on property to continue, contingent upon the applicant submitting a notice of intent, which is before you today. So that aspect of the enforcement order has been kind of satisfied, the kind of condition to get in front of the commission in a formal setting, notification to butters, things of this such. Do you have green cards? Thank you. Thank you, sir.
We're good to go?
Please identify yourself.
Good evening, I'm Paul Marchand from Marchand Associates, land surveyors, civil engineers from Sloan, Massachusetts. This is Stephen Caruso from Caruso McGovern, the property owner at New Industrial Way.
Thank you.
So as Stephen pointed out, we were here about a month ago or so talking about an enforcement order that was issued about wetlands being filled on the site. And just to refresh everyone's memory, Mr. Caruso purchased this property in 1996. At the time he purchased the property in 1995, the property had already been cleared and graded, and I submitted as part of notice of intent the Google Earth imagery from 1995 and Google Earth imagery from 2013. And if you look at those two documents, to me, it's pretty much the same with the area restoration. So we don't really know when wetlands was filled. Evidence suggests it was filled even before he owned the property, but we don't know that for a fact. So what we did is, the area of question was in here. You see this plan here in blue. We did four trenches with the wetland scientist, Steve Erickson from Norse Environmental, and inspected the soil under the fill and determined where the line was where wetlands had been altered. Whether it was altered by, when, we don't really know. And that comes to about 1,400, I think, 1,460 or 1,460 square feet of area that has been altered at some point in time. So we worked with Stephen, your Stephen, to come up with an area where we could have a wetlands replication area at a 2-to-1 level. And we decided, looking at it, it made sense to us to not try to replicate areas in places, because we do have this barrier wall, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And just kind of difficult area to work in, it didn't make sense to work back there. And Steve and I suggested actually this area over here, and we looked at that, but to do all of it in that area there would really have to cause us to go up the hill and dig the china in some spots, because the slope is rising quite quickly. So we went out there, and actually I went there personally with Mr. Caruso, and we located the prominent features in the area where the replication area was going to be, so we could try to save like big trees and not have to move like big rocks and things of that nature. We took the time to do that. You'll see in the plan, we located, you'll see there's trees here, there's large pine trees in here, and a couple of big boulders and a big cluster of trees over here. So we're working around that, so we can leave that in place, not have to cut that down and alter that. So the plan is, for replication, is basically to pull the grade at the edge of the wetlands back. We'd over dig it 6 inches lower than the wetlands grade.
Excuse me, sir, some people in the audience are having difficulty seeing that. Could you, yes, thank you.
So this is the replication area over here, and this is a blower block over here, a larger scale. So what we do is, starting at the edge of wetlands, we would be excavating back, and we would overdig that 6 inches deeper than the wetlands grade to backfill that with organic material, and then plant it with wetland seed mix. And then we also have a lot of wetland plants, which are specified in wetland plant, we put in this area. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how we approach the thing. I do want to talk about this wall here.
Now, you're talking about the wall now, that was recently installed, correct?
No. Yes and no. The base of this wall has been there since many, many years. I can't tell you how many years. What happened is there's a separate issue that's really not a conservation issue. There's been some complaints about noise from the activity taking place on site. So what Mr. Caruso did is he just stacked more blocks on top of the existing wall. He didn't excavate, just put more up there and went up in the air. What he did build more recently was a wall in front of that, just to protect it, because it's a freestanding wall. There's no fill behind it or in front of it.
It's still work in the buffer.
It is. But there was activity in the buffer going on back since 1996.
But that's a waiver. That's a waiver to the bylaw.
We'll discuss how you want to handle that. We're not here to fight. We're not here to argue. We're here to try to move forward on this.
I was just trying to clarify.
Well,
Thank you.
let me just say one thing for the record.
Who's fighting?
And correct me.
Who's fighting?
I know. Well, I also want to say this for the record. I read your regulations. The way I read it, and correct me if I'm wrong, the regulations were incorporated in 2003, and this wall wasn't there in 2003. Granted, that's new. But this wall has been there since before that.
But the bylaw's been in place long before 2003.
And the wall was built April,
No regulation in effect.
the wall was built April 25th. It's within the 75-foot buffer. I'm not sure.
Which wall are you talking about,
The,
Steve?
the large wall that is within the buffer.
This wall.
The big
Been
wall.
there for a long, for
The
many,
lo-
many
the
years.
tall wall,
You calling it the boulder wall?
Blocks?
the block wall was, but per the building inspector, was built on or about April 25th.
But let's just put it in
2014.
context. Let's just put it in context. If you
Okay.
say a wall was built, the normal person thinks you're digging an excavation, putting a foundation, building a wall.
Yep.
That's not what happened. There was one row of blocks along here for a long time.
Yep.
And just picked up more blocks and put them on top, like Legos.
Yep.
There was no excavation, there was no disturbing the ground, none of that stuff. It was there strictly for sound, period.
But still
Okay, so
requires.
semantics, we can.
It's semantics.
Yeah.
It requires filing with the
So,
Conservation Commission.
We're filed, we gotta
It's
file.
not
it.
semantics, it's
But
the
it's
law.
not, but not, this filing does not require that wall. This filing is for the replication area. So one of my concerns is this filing does not include the wall as part of a waiver. It's not even really acknowledging that wetlands were filled. It's kind of, oh, historically something was done. One of my arguments, I do not believe that that filling happened 30 years ago. I think that filling happened recently. If you go and look at it, the soil's fresh, the grass is fresh, there's fresh hay silt fence. The wall was built on April 25th, after both myself and the building inspector said no activity on site without permission. He went and built a wall. They're in trouble right now with the building department because that wall is not, never went through the building permit. They have to prove that it has a solid foundation. That's a dangerous situation. So they went and built and did all these things without permission from the town authorities. After, and I pretty much said, hey, no activity on the site after this date. They went and built must be a 15, 20-foot wall.
Wow.
So the whole site, to me, is in question. I'm hearing this, no waivers, but this wall was built on April 25th. That's a little bit after the regulations were adopted.
In 2014.
Correct. I saw that wall and the building inspector backed me up. I talked about this before this meeting. That wall was improved. That wall originally, the day I walked out there, you would have to kind of jump. There was some boulders, some blocks. Improvements have been done. I keep hearing this stuff was done 20 years ago. I do not believe all this work has been done, and I kind of take offense that we're being argumentative. The commission is doing their job. The building inspector has a cease and desist to fix this wall and get it made right. He's doing his job. Again, this is very complex property. There's some previous activity, I agree, but you can't use that card across the whole property. This wall was built a few months ago. The commission has to look at these things, and no fee was paid for that activity. That wall is not being acknowledged.
There's no permit pulled?
It's not acknowledged in the CNY, correct?
Steve, can I ask, so the issue here is that, that, Mr. Caruso, you say that there was a wall there for 20 years. What was that wall like?
You know, the wall was like a block high. And then we got calls for the noise. We decided to
Were
build.
there gaps between the blocks?
No, these are precast blocks, they're probably 2 feet, 2.5 feet high by 3.5 feet, I mean, they're big blocks.
And so did it form a solid wall along the
Yeah.
edge of that wetland?
That's right.
Correct.
And when was that installed?
Oh, many years ago. You know, when
And
we
so
first
when-
came in there. But the wall that he's right, we built the wall on top of that wall
Did it 2 years.
just
So you
6
heightened
months.
it.
We heightened
He
it.
basically just bought
You
more
heightened
blocks
it.
Right.
and put them on top.
That's right.
And where did the noise complaints come from? From the building inspector?
Building inspector called, the abutters were calling for the noise.
And so the building inspector confronted you and said you
Said
need to do
you have a
something
noise
about the noise.
problem. So
And
we
what
took-
did he suggest?
He didn't just, he just said there's a noise complaint.
It was an hours of operation issue for the most part. It's when this was going on. Early,
see.
late, some weekend work. Again, I don't think it's relevant, and I know there's a lot of abutters here regarding the noise, and I just want to encourage people to stay on conservation-related issues. The noise is definitely part of this, but I don't think we need to focus on that. The wall was built to take care of another issue not relevant to this group.
And
The
I'm-
bottom line is, though, that it wasn't permitted properly, and the building inspector needs proof that it was done correctly.
Doesn't sound like it was
So
permitted
there's
at
other
all.
issues going on, yeah.
He's trying to be nice.
But just to your question, your point, so when you say the wall was constructed, I'd say it was maybe enhanced, because what he did, he just
That's
added more
interesting
blocks on
language.
top. He didn't dig anything, he didn't disturb the soil, he just added more blocks on top, strictly just prevent the sound issue, which is not a conservation issue, but, you know,
Well, actually.
you should have got a permit for it.
I'm kind of persuaded to be in agreement with that point, in that the wall was there holding back the wetland, which had been held to that line. He's giving me his devil look.
No, I'm just trying to understand.
So
yeah,
the
where-
wall was there along the edge of the wetland. It was
Mhm.
holding that wetland back, which was more or less lapping up against it. So they didn't increase the encroachment on the wetland, they just went up.
They filled in, a wetland was filled.
Where was the filling? I
Okay,
don't,
so here's-
I don't
So
understand
here
that.
is, you come closer.
Yeah.
Here is the wall right here that we're talking about right now. This is the edge of the wetlands is flagged.
Yeah.
Here's the wall we're talking about right now.
That- this
The
bottom
historical
red
wall.
one?
Right, the
Mhm.
bottom red one. And this area here, based upon the excavations we've done, the trenches we've done, we've determined this is wetlands that have been altered at some point in time.
I see. And you're maintaining that they were actually filled
I'm not,
decades
I'm not
ago.
I'm not saying that this
So
operation
that's
didn't
the
do it.
issue.
All I'm saying is that
Okay.
we really don't know. If you look at the 1995 and the 2013 photographs, frankly, the 1995 photographs to me show even a bigger area of alteration than 2013. But part of that could be because, I mean, the trees are foliated and so it's just hard to tell.
Are you
It's
just
really hard to
using
tell.
the Google Earth type
Google
of?
Earth, yeah. Google Earth, I checked DEP wetlands change maps, I can't find anything, but irregardless, we know the wetlands were filled. So we've done the work to identify those wetlands with the wetland scientists and myself on the site, my further crew on the site, we've identified that, and now we're talking about how to replicate it. That's what we're here for.
So your concern is that wetlands have been filled and that the wall was constructed
Without a
and that without a permit, and that we need to replicate and repair the damage
And-
that was done.
And ideally, you would replicate where the wetlands were impacted. But they've built a really, really tall wall a number of feet away, that would makes it very difficult to replicate in the right spot.
Right.
So if they came in beforehand, before the wall was built, we could have scraped back the wetland that was impacted. Now we're mitigating somewhere else, so we're gonna impact native, healthy areas to create wetlands, to mitigate damage that would have been easily corrected. And again,
Was there
they-
another
Listen,
solution?
Let's talk about that.
At-
Let's just talk about that.
At the previous meeting, I questioned procedurally why we elected to go with a notice of intent
Well, we still have an open EO.
for the very reasons that Steve just identified, and why we didn't go with a restoration plan, which would have required the applicant and the property owner to restore the area to pre-disturbance characteristics, that specific site, and not impact another area.
Well, let's talk about that. The reason why we impact on the area, and we can do this, we're not saying we can't do it, and we're not saying we won't do it, so we can do that. But Stephen told me you're looking for a 2-to-1 replication. So even if I replicate every square foot in here, I'm not gonna get 2-to-1. It's just not gonna happen. I'm gonna have to go somewhere else. Made sense to me, this is just me
Well,
talking. I'm not-
the 2-to-1 was if you kept the existing, I remember the discussion, the 2-to-1 is if you keep the wetland filling. So the concept was, this is permission after the fact for wetland filling. If that's done, it's a 2-to-1 replication. When we were talking about fixing the other area, it was not, technically it's not 2-to-1 because you're removing the waiver that required the 2-to-1. So if you removed it, you might add a little bit more to mitigate maybe some potential lack of function, but you don't need as much on the left side if you were to
See,
fix
I am-
the first part.
I am not married to this.
Yep.
This is expensive. It's gonna take a long time.
Yep.
If you guys would rather have us, instead of doing this, go ahead and replicate this in place.
Yep.
I'm all for, we can get it done. We can do it. It's a little difficult.
I
because
thought the
it's tight
wall was,
quarters.
I thought
Well,
there was
it's
some
tight-
concern about the
It's
wall.
tight quarters, and there was a slope back there to
Yep.
deal with, but we can do it.
Yep. The wall is also it's looking for a permission after the fact. So again, if it is tight quarters, in my opinion, the wall might be a little too tight. It's a waiver to the regulation. It's supposed to be at 75 feet, where it's not. Moving the rock wall over a little bit would maybe allow for better access to that replication area.
So this wall is at 75 feet
It's within the 75 foot.
within, where, I'm sorry.
75 feet,
It's,
you got the plan right there?
my gosh, I mean,
closer than
do
that.
I see the 25 here?
Here's 75.
We actually don't have a 25 foot.
Where is the, I'm sorry,
on the
so the
25.
wall is on the 25.
It's closer then. It's like probably 20 feet.
Sorry. Gotcha. Okay. So why is the wall there?
Noise?
Apart from noise, is it to delineate your working area? Like if you make your working area smaller, does that make it so you can't work?
Why was it originally there?
Right, exactly.
And so the guys wouldn't fall off and would pile stuff there, and we didn't want it, we always stockpile materials there, and we didn't want the stuff to go down the bank So we had that wall there. So the guys would, number one, they wouldn't go off the bank, but number two, the material that they
Slough
dump
off.
doesn't go down there.
So you're saying you guys did install that?
Many years ago, when we first came there, the very first
How many years ago?
97 maybe, 90, somewhere in the 90s. I've been there for many years, and we've always used that area.
Which, do you mind if I just clarify, there's two block structures. There's labeled one level block wall, freestanding block wall.
Yeah.
Which one are you referencing right now? Because technically they're both
Freestanding block
waivers.
wall, the one closest to wetlands.
That was where
Yeah.
the blocks were originally.
Right.
That's
Okay.
what they're back in.
Because when I first went out there, I remember, because it was a muddy site, I remember walking down that line to stay out of the mud, and there was the first, 20, 30 feet were boulders that you had to jump from boulder to boulder, and then there were some blocks and some other stuff. So, again, I went out there, the first time I was out there, the building inspector, the same exact thing, something changed in there. This was not just 100% stacking blocks. Maybe some of them were the same spot, but that area is very disturbed. Some of the blocks were on an angle. I respectfully disagree that all of this work is historic, wetland filling, the blocks. Again, we can go back and forth on dates. It's not lining up to me. My recommendation, so we don't spend all night here going back and forth, because we're not, is have a third-party reviewer review it. In my opinion, they need to modify the notice of intent, so it includes waivers for these two block walls that are 100% waivers, whether they want, one of the walls was, by their own admission, put in more recently. The other one was added on top of. Either way, it's a waiver on the block wall. It's not included in this document, so the application technically is not complete. I allowed it to go through the process because we were kind of agreeing to disagree. And you guys are the decision-making board. You guys are the ones that say what can go through or not. Again, I think this is right for a third-party review.
I'll entertain a motion for a third-party review.
Butter?
I'll
Not
do
for
that
that.
after.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, you want to do it, or?
No. So what are we looking for from a third-party
Just
reviewer?
to review the project, the notice of intent, just like we do for other larger projects, to look at the project and how it meets the local, state regulations,
And what their recommendations
stormwater,
are,
and what their recommendations are.
Does Mass Stormwater Standards apply?
I'm not sure. They can address it if
I
they do.
say no.
Yeah, I would think not either.
Because we're not proposing any impervious areas, nothing like
Yeah,
that.
the thing is, that the way this was filed, the DEP is not gonna pick up on a lot of our concerns. They filed it for kind of wetland restoration, creating newer wetlands.
Right.
Their filing does not acknowledge waivers to the bylaw, they don't acknowledge filling, it's very,
Okay.
written very specifically for what they are claiming that they wanna do, not acknowledging the history and what
Yeah.
my concerns are.
You wouldn't necessarily
They
notice a
wouldn't pick
violation.
up a lot of these issues. The local reviewer will go out to the site, will look at the memos we've written internally and, get an understanding for what we're concerned about and address them.
Yeah,
Because again, we've already been here long enough, going
So-
back and forth.
so
I
what's
agree.
the other?
I want some other
so what's
evidence
the-
I'd like to put into the record too while I'm here tonight. We did some research at the Registry of Deeds since we met last time, and we found there was an order of condition issue on this site back in
Historic one.
I think it's 87.
This is order of condition
1987.
from 87?
87, right here. And the order of conditions references lot number 2, Tenny Street. There's lot number 2, Tenny Street, which is this lot.
Yep.
So there's an order of
Right.
conditions. I haven't yet been able to find the plans that go along with it.
Yeah, that's
I
gold.
intend to keep on searching, because Mr. Caruso does have records in it when he bought the property. We're trying to find it. So, I mean, there was an order of conditions given for the work on the site. What exactly was covered, I don't know.
Was there a certificate of compliance
If it's found,
issued?
I'm gonna find it.
Was there a certificate of compliance
We
issued?
weren't the applicant, so I didn't find one recorded at the Registry of Deeds. Now, whether it was one issued and didn't get recorded, I don't know. If you guys have records.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
guys may have this in your records.
I
I'm not
looked
sure.
through, I couldn't find anything in the basement for this project.
You're welcome to take a copy if you want.
Yeah,
I will definitely grab one though, yes.
So I think it's safe for us to
I'd
assume
like to
that
submit this as part of the
no
record.
certificate
Thank
of
you.
compliance
Do you
was
have
issued.
copies? I can keep
You
this?
can take these right here, you can keep those.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion. I would like to, I make a motion to retain the services of a peer consultant. The commission seems comfortable with BSC, Jillian Davies, as our wetlands consultant. To retain the services of Ms. Davies, BSC Group, to conduct a peer review on GCC 2014-12, DEP 161-0785, pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Georgetown Wetlands Bylaw, And I would like that peer review to include a confirmation of the proposed wetland line.
Confirmation of what do you mean
Of the
proposed?
proposed wetland line?
Yeah.
Well, existing.
They're proposing.
With their restoration?
Yes,
Okay.
because this, technically they're proposing.
Okay.
Also to remand to the applicant to submit the necessary waivers for a block wall. Any other waivers?
I think just submit waivers for work being done, because I don't really 100% know where all the waivers are.
And and you know what? Jillian will pick that up.
So it's just really
That's
a
it,
motion
that's
to
it, yeah.
hire a third party.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there a second?
Yes,
We have
second.
a motion, it's been seconded to hire BSC or our third-party reviewer, Jillian Davies, and to remand to the applicant to identify what waivers they're really asking for, or need to be asking for.
Yeah, and that'll come out in our peer review as well.
Is there any further discussion? Actually,
Do we need a better?
yeah, I want to actually, before we,
You don't need that, we're not continuing, we're not voting, it's a vote on.
yeah, okay,
technical-
we're doing
sorry.
third-party,
You're
right,
right.
go ahead. Yeah, fine. Is there any further discussion on that?
Do we want to include an assessment of violations?
I think that's the big picture. When I say assess the site, it's past enforcement issues, kind of a history to really maybe look in the deeds and find out what happened. Maybe they can find the original site plan. It's to look at it holistically. That's why I was trying to get you not to focus on one condition. It's kind of look at it from an enforcement stand, any violations.
So
Their
you want that
proposed
included in
fix.
the peer review? Because Jillian,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I mean, the goal
we'll
is to
include
bring
an
it into
assessment
the-
of alleged violations.
And bring it into compliance. I mean, this is the goal, recommendations, what happened there, what we need to do, where we're going with this thing. I will open it up. Let me do this motion first. Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, all abstaining. I will open it up to a butter comments, if you identify yourself for the record, please.
Dana Shuttleworth, 13 Hickory Lane, regarding existing violations, how are they being met?
Well, what we just did was approve a peer review with a wetland scientist to conduct a review of the current conditions and to itemize and document violations pursuant to state law and local law.
We actually have an open enforcement order on this site,
Yeah.
with fines technically accruing.
So fines are accruing, how about the noise, how's that being dealt with?
It's not a conservation issue, I
Yeah.
apologize. Building inspector is the best place to address those. Any fixes to the noise might go through us, but the noise is a building inspection issue.
So the wall basically was built to try to prevent the noise coming into the neighborhood,
That's my understanding, yes.
which hasn't helped. It's still there.
See,
I
we
wish
have,
they would give Mr. Caruso the ability to build a nuclear soundproof silo to prevent the noise and the vibration. I know your focus is the wetlands issues.
but if the applicant submitted a notice of intent to build such a structure and it was in compliance with state and local law, we would approve it.
Well, I'm being facetious.
Oh, I know, but my point is that if they wanted to do something a bit more professional, we would, as long as we would review it pursuant to the wetlands laws, and we could, and if it's approvable, if it meets the regulations, we would approve it. So there are options the applicant pursue to address noise issues. If they contain construction activity within a buffer zone, then they would bring it to us, and we could approve that.
How about being in compliance with the rock washing operation through DEP?
Not our issue.
Yeah.
Not your issue.
See, we have a very limited focus. We only have jurisdiction within 100 feet of a wetland, or 200 feet of a river. And our regulated activities include things such as moving dirt, anything that will alter drainage, grading. So we're very limited on what we can do.
How did you initially get involved with this department?
Building inspector, site inspection with the building inspector, and observed the wall and some of the soil that I believed was
But essentially,
wetland filling.
that must have been due to complaints, you went with the building inspector?
He was there due to the complaints for noise. We do site inspections together often. and-
Is there an existing buffer, an existing hay bale line on the
There is
property?
silt
that
fence
was
installed, yes.
that was-
One of the reasons I was concerned is that the silt fence is fresh, the soil looks fresh, the grass looks new. This is not 20-year-old grass. I brought up there was concern over filling. Turns out there was filling involved. Again, I'm just trying to get more information and understand when and how to, what issues we should be looking at, because there's obviously activity on the site. I've looked at the same pictures. The site's been active for a long time. You can't see within the detail to say when that wetland filling occurred.
I mean, so if the applicant would propose a different kind of noise abatement structure, I mean, we would certainly entertain looking at that as part of this process, but again, that's up to the applicant to kind of,
Yeah.
how they're proposing that.
Who addressed the noise complaints in town?
Building inspector.
Building inspector, it's not the Board of Health?
I think,
Building inspector.
I think the building inspector in conversations with the DEP was advised to work through the Board of Health also, because they're on the DEP original permit, if you will, back in back in 2007. Why? I haven't a clue.
Yeah.
But
Can we grab your name for the record? I'm sorry, sir.
John Hannaberry, Hickory Lane, 12 Hickory Lane.
Thank you.
And for your edification, these documents are public, so if you wanted to call our agent, get a copy of them.
What those documents are?
Yeah, these documents are, everything's public.
It's a notice of
Do you
intent.
want-
Give it.
Here you go, sir.
There you go.
A little light bedtime reading for you, enjoy.
He's younger and swifter than I am.
Yeah, and we can provide you with a copy of the enforcement order if you contact our agent Monday morning. We can probably just email it to you.
What are the current conditions of the enforcement order?
It was the cease and desist and filing notice of intent.
Cease and desist,
Which you
the
guys lifted.
filling?
Of the typical business activities. So there was concern about him being shut down for this enforcement. You can run the trucks, you can do these activities without impacting the wetlands more. So I think my original concern was, I don't know what's going on the site, we have to get control of the site. Wrote the enforcement order, they came in, we talked about it, you guys lifted the
we
activity on the site
modified that.
Right, we did.
to allow the business to continue functioning, acknowledging that we still need to address the bigger
And that
picture
they can't
of
impact,
violations.
they still can't impact the wetlands, et cetera, et cetera.
I,
The materials they're dumping over there have, it's asphalt, old concrete, the asphalts have oils in them, the concretes have lines in it. There's all kinds of stuff being dumped over there. Who's monitoring that?
I think the Board of Health and the building inspector. Part of the reason I want to better understand what's going on and get a third party on it is because of the distances of these piles of material and leaching and stuff coming out.
Well, I mean, if they're
Which
dumping
isn't
it in a
being
resource area, then it's in
Yeah.
our jurisdiction, but it's
Again,
within.
it's within that 100-foot buffer zone. So
Which
the,
it is.
so the motion that we made is to ask our peer consultant, our wetland scientist, to assess violations. So if there is illegal dumping taking place within that 100 feet, that'll be documented and it'll be in our report, which will be public. You can request a copy of it.
Not for nothing, I came from an area where the state was storing their salt shed, and half mile down the road, that salt shed, all the runoff, affected all the wells.
That's a great point.
And when-
That's a great point. So we have jurisdiction only to 100 feet. We can extend our jurisdiction if activities beyond 100 feet impact jurisdictional resources. So if something seeps in, then we legally can intervene.
Has any, will this report include water sampling? They test the water? Wetland water?
Typically, it does not.
No, typically it does
Unless
not.
there's an observation from our third-party reviewer of, oil or sheening in the wetland. If there's any indicators out there,
It could be too late by that point,
what would be too late?
you know.
The wells.
You're not testing the water now.
It's in the soil. Most of the stuff soaks in, and if you do
Well,
sampling, you can
if
get
the
down to
state
it.
was I mean,
Yeah.
there was lots of wells running from that salt shed, and it was like half a mile away.
Right.
what is this wetland connected to? Do we know?
I'm not sure. I can find out by the next meeting, kind of the big picture.
I
of
mean,
where it
that,
is.
if we're talking about some kind of contamination, that would be important to know, too.
But there is a stream there that runs up.
Well, I mean, this is all the reason why we want to do the third-party
I know,
review.
I'm
because
sorry.
We're sending
And I would
scientists
like-
out there and give it a full assessment. We can talk about this all night at the meeting, but we want technical folks to go out there and look at this and give us a formal, detailed report of what's going on, recommendations, and next steps.
So I also would like to go out for a sidewalk. I find it really difficult to look at, you know,
Yeah, I
I would like to be there.
But they
And
look at the
see.
streams and ponds on our property, which are wetlands we can't build on, we know that. but it would extend more than 300 feet, like when you do the notice. We're like 450, he's even like 500. Would they look at it? There's bodies of water there that you can't ford. And he's got a stream going by his house.
Our jurisdiction is maximum 200 feet.
From the property line? Or into the wetlands?
From the resource. 200 feet off properties, as far as we go, as far as looking at resources, because that's the maximum jurisdiction we have.
And that's under a
If-
river.
Now, if it's
There's a
connected,
river.
if we find some, like John was mentioning earlier, if the damage being done on property extends beyond it, then our jurisdiction follows the damage, right? You know, so there's contaminants in the wetland half mile away due to this, we can follow it, but from a general standpoint, you look at the site plan, our maximum jurisdiction at this point is 200 feet, until additional evidence proves otherwise.
Are you folks on town water, or are you on well water up there?
Town.
So,
Can
her
we
site walk
make,
recommendation?
can we make a motion for a site walk?
We can.
Entertain a
Mr.
motion for
Chairman,
a
I
site walk.
can like to make a motion that
And you
the
can
commission.
because there's been an open NOI.
Right,
You have,
I'd like to make a
right.
motion that the commission visit the site for a site walk. Do we need to set a date right now?
It's preferable to do a date and a time.
Okay.
If the owner's okay with the butters being present. If
Yep.
butters don't have to be there, then it's fairly easy to internally come up with a date and a time if we
And,
can.
Super.
and we would have to ask the applicant, if we were doing a site walk, would you have any issues with the butters attending that?
I mean, I don't have experience in this.
It's up to Steve, and it's his call. What I've done with other clients in the past is that there's always a question about, liability issue, number one. Number two, and with all due respect to the abutters here, the big concern seems to be about noise, which really isn't a conservation issue. So I'd prefer to stay, on point. I think it'd be more effective, but if the commission really insists and they really want the abutters there.
Oh, I'm not assisting, I'm
No, I'm saying,
asking.
We're
if you
just
think,
questioning.
if you think there's a value to that, I really don't think there is. I think the professionals should handle it, the commissioners and your consultant or whatever. So in that case, I would say we don't need the abutters, but if you,
I heard noise and runoff, though. They were concerned about runoff.
yeah, well, look, better I don't say anything, but, if you guys want the abutters there, they can be there. I don't see what they can bring to the table. I think, you folks are the professionals, you know what you're doing. You have a third-party reviewer getting involved here.
We don't
I mean,
ask for that for our use, it's to allow the abutters the
It's a,
opportunity.
it's part of a public
We have no
process.
preference or opinion, it's a question to
Excuse me,
the
if you want,
owner.
yeah,
If they say yes, then the abutters can come, if they say no, then the abutters can't come.
What are you in for?
It's a fairly straightforward exercise, to be honest with you.
And the purpose of a site visit is to just gather information. There's no decisions being made. That would actually be a violation.
Yeah,
of state law.
see, we're not having it's not a public meeting, so
We're
it's
just
a
going to
site walk.
look, see, and
We're
then
asking
leave.
questions.
Yeah. So the public, no decisions will be made. All decisions are made within a public forum. So you won't be excluded from any of that. And also,
Yes, ma'am.
I think we both have a question.
As soon as the commission is finished, I'll get to you.
Okay, just let me know.
Just protocol.
and just one more quick comment. I think it's always a good idea for interested parties, abutters, to review the project, review the notice of intent, and submit written comments and questions. That way, we can provide more substantive. We can either forward your questions to our wetland scientist, and she can address them through her review. So, if you take some time, think it through, and submit your questions to Steve.
There's a
It
couple.
is,
Ma'am, if you want to speak, if you want to identify yourself for the record, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Pat Pelletier, 24 Twenty Street. We came in response to this notice. The rumor going on Tenny Street is just as far as the driveway, that there's gonna be an access from Tenny. Is that true? And where is the sidewalk going to be?
Is that this, that's not
East
the
Main
same.
or Tenny Street?
Team
No, of course not. We've been here since
Can I see
19.
the notification?
Yeah.
You might be here for another case.
No, it says driveway, it says 8:30
Yeah, this
tonight.
is 274 East Main Street, we're running really late.
Oh.
You're kidding me.
So we'll open that up in a few minutes.
You're
I'm
kidding.
sorry.
You're kidding.
No.
Very good concern though, but a couple minutes.
But you know what? Consider that practice, and you did a great job.
Is this protocol?
there's a lady.
Ma'am, if you want to identify yourself, please.
Yes, I'm Gloria Seaboyer. I live at 246 East Main Street, and I'm a direct abutter to the marshland, which I feel is what's happening there.
Excuse me, ma'am, that's
I
another,
spoke with him several times.
that's another
so I
case.
have tried
That,
to keep-
that's not this case.
Not this case?
You're here for 274 East Main Street also?
We're doing 12 cases tonight, so there's a lot of,
Alright.
We're very,
No,
Again,
we're getting there.
we're getting there.
All that question.
But you're great.
We have
They're building a wall there, so when he was talking
wall,
about the wall.
Oh, right.
four more cases.
We'll
Four
get-
more cases.
we'll get there.
Okay, so when would you like, oh, sorry, are
Site
we having a
inspection.
butters, Mr. Caruso?
You know what I would rather do? You know, that I
What
would
would you
rather
rather
have the
do?
commission just stay with the commission for that particular walk, but, you know, that if you guys wanna meet, I try to, you know, I try to reach out to you guys in the past to meet for a cup of coffee. That's, you know, this is all I wanna do is work together. You know, you guys with the commission, I wanna be a good neighbor. I've been here for a long time. You know, if you wanna meet, we can meet for a cup of coffee. You guys come up my office. Let's just work together. If you guys have a problem with noise or, you know, whatever the problems are, let's just work together and get it solved. I mean, that's it, you know, I don't, but I mean, for this thing,
Okay.
I'd rather just.
No butters.
That's okay.
No butters.
Thank you.
Do you have a date?
Okay.
Date and time,
Uh,
quick.
Saturday, 9 o'clock.
This Saturday?
Yes, you're frowning.
A
Is that
second.
okay?
Geez, can I
9
I'd
o'clock?
like to be there.
10 o'clock?
No,
8:30?
you have to be
Yeah, I
there.
cannot be here Saturday.
Oh, okay. Then what time suits you?
Let me look.
If a butters aren't there, we can do this later, but I find it helps better when everyone's at the table to decide.
Are you available?
I'm thinking right now. I don't know.
He's nervous.
Try to be. A lot of kid stuff. But
About how long it's gonna be? About one, my kids play sports, I
It's a
gotta
half-
take,
it's a
split
half-
up.
It's less than a half hour. It's
How
a
about
very
an
open site.
evening?
We
Would
can
you
do
prefer an
evenings, like
evening, Mr.
early
Caruso,
is
what
better
time?
for me.
I can
early
do
evening.
Okay.
I mean, the earlier the better in the evening.
No, but like weekdays. Sometimes
Like
because
weekdays.
it's dark.
Yes.
It gets dark at like 7:30, 8. We could do 6:30, 7.
We could do.
Sneak in a half hour.
How
Bring
would
your
that be?
bug
Is that
spray.
okay with you?
What day is it?
I don't know.
We haven't picked
Pick a
Oh.
day.
I'm gonna be gone
Anything
from
but
Sunday through Thursday next week, this week.
Well, you're no help.
you were going to be gone.
Heading up northern Maine.
Nothing's going to stop you.
Friday.
Next Friday. Okay, what is the date
Tomorrow.
of that?
From
Thursday.
How about
Thursday.
can anyone do tomorrow?
27th?
I can do
When? Tomorrow I could do.
I can do
Tomorrow?
tomorrow.
At what time?
I don't know.
Anytime.
I can't do tomorrow.
No, neither can I.
But you don't need. But you don't need me. That's the key.
Yeah.
No, we
Applicant-
do need you.
Applicant and you guys is
Okay,
you're good.
how about next Friday evening,
okay.
all right? At like 6.
And what's the date?
Is that the 27th?
Can't do that.
Yeah, 6 at night.
Okay,
Oh,
July,
you can't do
no, June 27th
Then what
at
about if we-
6.
then what about if we-
Friday's
you know,
not
can
the
we do it tomorrow
27th, Friday's
morning?
like the 20.
Early
I
tomorrow?
can't.
Yeah, it is the
Tomorrow
27th.
morning.
I don't
Tomorrow
know if
morning?
I can do that.
I can, but
How
Can we do it
early?
tomorrow
How
morning?
early?
I mean,
How
I'll do as
early?
early as you guys want.
Carl's probably up the earliest.
Yeah, I can never get up early.
Yeah, but you go to work.
I could do it tomorrow morning.
yep, I can do it.
The other option is, if the applicant's okay with it, is we can do this in phases, so I can go with Laura another time if you can't do tomorrow morning.
Okay,
Again, it's just to get everyone out there. We have a very
All right.
hard time getting commissioners on site. If we can guarantee 2 or 3 tomorrow morning, that's better than probably
can you
three-quarters of
do
our.
tomorrow
appointments.
I
morning?
can do tomorrow
Can
morning.
you do tomorrow morning? No, can you do tomorrow morning?
I can.
Can you?
At what
No,
time?
sorry, we're back to Friday
back to
evening.
Friday.
Okay, next Friday evening, June 27th at 6 PM.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have fun on a Friday night.
I know, we can go out after.
Friday night, 27.
So we need
We
to.
know how to
Want to
live.
make a motion?
That was a
I
motion.
just made that motion.
Seconded.
Second.
Second, we have a motion, it's been seconded to do a site walk at 1 Industrial Way at June 27th at 6 PM. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll entertain a motion to continue the submitted NOI for 1 Industrial Way.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to continue GCC 2014-12, DEP 161-0785 to July 17th at
7:40.
7:40.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded to continue the notice of intent for 1 Industrial Way to July 17th at 7:40 PM. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It being on or after 8 PM, I'm going to open up a new notice of, an existing notice of intent for 1 Wilkins Place, this is a new one. rear Lisa Lane, 18 Lisa Lane, and 44 Searle Street, AK Turning Leaf.
Turning leaf, yeah.
If I could have the applicant and a consultant, and if you could identify yourself, please.
Good evening, Joe Mann here, the acting return from Leaf Residential Subdivision. Here with me is Rich Williams, the site design engineer, and Tom O'Connell, a representative of the principal. We've been working with this commission to develop a plan that is free from waivers and have successfully done so. I believe that Mr. O'Connell and Mr. Williams met with Mr. Dembski after our last meeting, just to confirm the extended area. Remember when we talked about the special or conditions to extend? So they actually met with Mr. Dembski and just made sure that.
Can I jump in before we get too far
Yeah,
into this?
whoa, please.
I want to make sure we have a votable quorum.
That, I looked too.
Yeah, this is a problem.
Because I do not believe either of these gentlemen can vote.
I thought that they had missed one meeting.
How many, we've had 3 meetings now?
We've had more than that, but many more.
If they
When
just-
did
You can miss, you can miss one if, they can miss one if they,
miss only one.
they have to make, read up
So,
the information.
John missed one. I checked with town council, they don't have to read, they have to listen to a transcript or watch the video.
Oh, you didn't do this before. You missed one meeting. It was the last meeting, right?
No, I missed the early ones back in
So these two missed the
First
first
couple.
two. John missed one.
You missed 2 meetings?
We've been to 2 meetings.
These guys are very new on the committee.
Yeah, my first meeting was March.
So I guess before we get too much into details, I believe,
You can't even open the hearing. You don't have a quorum.
yeah, so, and again, I just don't want to give too much information because we'll have to
I
repeat it.
can't give any, we can't open it.
Exactly. And I had to be honest with you, with 2 other commissioners not here, Lilibeth has missed a previous one.
Yes.
I think right now you would need,
I think John,
John has not missed one.
This is his first, this would, well,
His
since we
first-
didn't open it, this,
So John can miss tonight and watch the video, because this is being recorded right now. Both of
I
you
haven't missed any.
have not missed, but that's 3. I need 4 for a quorum. So when I haven't checked to make sure and done a little spreadsheet on who and when and where, but the way I read it right now, we might not be able to vote on this period, given lack of quorum. And again,
what it would,
we need to figure that out.
what it would mean is, you'd have to withdraw and refile with, the same information and.
Unfortunately. To make it
But you,
legal.
have to then advertise it
Well,
again, blah, blah, blah.
If John if John and Lilibeth,
But that's
John and
only 3.
Lilibeth have missed, Lilibeth missed the last one. She's been at every one, I
I need to
thought.
check on Lilibeth. The problem is, we can't get John because we don't have a transcript. They said that you cannot use minutes. It has to be a transcript that to count. So I do not believe we have a transcript because we did it downstairs with Susan taking the minutes. So we have no
That's-
audio.
That's something new.
It is.
If we want, we could take a recess. Susan can go to her files and give us some more exact information as to who missed, who's eligible.
So that would take, what, like 10 minutes?
Ugh.
Well, I can answer it pretty quickly. You missed, you came in March?
March was the first time.
And when did you first?
Yeah, they
That's
were the
right,
same
they
night.
were the same, yeah.
I missed one.
And you didn't review?
But you
No.
can't, because the language of the document that they have to sign off, I checked with town council last week. It has to be a transcript. You're signing off saying, I reviewed the transcript.
I didn't
Susan's
read it.
minutes don't count as a transcript.
Oh.
And so we don't have a video. So tonight, John Bell can watch tonight's video, and he would be eligible to vote. As I counted, that's 3 commissioners that
What
can
is,
vote.
what is a transcript? It's not the minutes.
Transcript is an exact,
Transcript is when you actually have somebody.
a stenographer.
Stenographer, yeah.
And Susan does a great job, but she's not getting exact verbatim.
And you didn't have an audio, you don't.
We were downstairs. The only place that has audio or video is up here.
Okay, so what do we do? Looks like continue to, well, we're not
I'll
continuing
be honest
because we're
with
not
you,
even
we
open.
can continue it to, if there's any question that John would count, right? If we can get the minutes to count, but that's not we can continue this and talk to town
Well-
council and see if we can get it to be a legitimate votable quorum.
Well,
But,
apparently administratively continue this.
yeah, without giving any details so that this doesn't almost count, like it didn't even happen. Which is why I interrupted, I'm sorry.
No, I
Um,
appreciate it. That's why when we were doing it, beforehand, we
Yeah.
knew that you hadn't missed for a long period of time. And I'm just trying to recall when we had our first hearing.
So, we can
Sorry.
go back Monday and come up with a list of who and when and where, but either way, we're gonna have to continue it tonight. right, to get John here, so.
Well, it is possible,
So we can
that we
continue
would
it.
withdraw and honestly refile, because
And you'll
I'm
get
not
honest-
gonna risk that.
Well, it's cleaner, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah,
But then
I-
you gotta advertise it again.
Yeah, oh yeah, the whole thing, the whole thing.
But you can do
I
that
could
for
do
July. You can
I
do
could
that.
do that, basically, I could do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then I could have it at the next meeting,
Yeah.
so that I have, and it's really a cessation, but
You
it's
get
not
everything in
material.
Monday.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's all in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
refile.
I don't have to, all I have to do is resubmit.
Do you have to
literal.
redate all the documents?
Nope.
So it's easy.
Yep, it is, it's not, it's,
Relative.
I mean, it's,
It's a
yeah.
paper exercise.
it's a paper, it's expensive because of the list of, abutters, but that's.
Well, I mean, technically, I did open the hearing, even though we can't vote on anything.
It doesn't count. if
Oh, I know,
if you
I'm-
can do legally. Yeah.
But I mean, we may have abutters here too.
Well, we have to continue.
I can't allow anybody to talk.
No.
Yeah, it's a
Let's just
continuation.
Move on.
Yeah.
So it's an administrative continuation, so I'll continue it. And/or they'll withdraw.
We won't withdraw.
Submit something
Yeah.
I mean,
Monday.
we're that close. It would have been done tonight.
No, we're not that done, but.
Oh, well, we can't talk about it, but,
Yeah.
you know what,
I'll talk to you guys Monday when you file. and
Have a
we'll-
nice night.
Thank you.
Very
Sorry.
sorry.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. I'm glad I caught it, just because otherwise we'd.
Sorry for any butters.
So if you were here for 1 Wilkins Place, Rear Lisa Lane, it's going to be continued and refiled.
Submit
July.
in writing.
Yeah.
comments.
It'll be continued most likely to July 17th. They'll be re-notified in the
Oh,
papers.
yes, I was meant to ask you when.
July 17th, most likely after 8:30. We have stuff in the front half. So you will receive notification. Before you sign the notification Monday, talk to me and, actually, just do at 8:30, to July 17th at 8:30, and we'll talk Monday.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you a call.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Good night. Have a good night.
We're actually going to set a record tonight, Mr.
Hey,
Chairman.
hey, we have 4 more cases.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, don't do
We
it.
have a new
Easy
notice
guy.
of intent, it being on or after 8:10, I'm gonna open up
I
a
got
new
my-
notice of intent for 7 Lincoln Street, septic system upgrade for multifamily dwelling. If I could have the applicant and a consultant, if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Good evening, my name is Jim Scanlon. I'm here on behalf of Craig Mead, 7 Lincoln Street. Our septic system upgrade.
Could I, Mr. Chairman, could I just make an initial comment, if I may be so bold? We hear many septic system upgrades through the course of a year. I think that if there are no outstanding issues, I ask the applicant to keep comments to 3 minutes. We defer to our agent for recommendations, if that meets with the chair's approval.
Well, let's see. What did I allocate for this?
Straightforward, no wait, there's no place else to put the system.
We allocated 5 minutes for this.
Okay.
And that's
There you go.
too many.
Go.
Not to put pressure on you.
The property is located at 7 Lincoln Street. It is a multifamily dwelling, 8 bedrooms. It abuts Penbrook, and then there's also a bordering vegetated wetland associated with Penbrook. Penbrook is, the top of bank is shown in the light blue. That's the 100-foot riverfront, and that's the 200-foot riverfront.
And you are in the inner or outer riparian?
We are we're in the outer repair. Okay. We're proposing, there are 2 existing systems shown here in red. We're proposing to install a septic system, one system, to handle both units. And it'll
Gravity?
be located in the front.
Gravity fed?
No, it'll be pumped. It'll include a septic tank, a water loose system, and a pressurized leach field. All work is, or the majority of the work is outside of the 100-foot buffer, which is shown right here in the purple. The only work that's proposed inside the 100-foot buffer zone to the BVW would be the building sewer pipes and a little bit of paving or repaving and the abandonment of the existing system.
Is there any net gain of pervious material?
No, the parking lot's gonna be replaced.
Is the system in complete failure?
The system is in failure. The plans have been approved by the Board of Health. And as you can see, there is portion of the, I mean, this is the riverfront area. We basically have it as far forward as we can.
Sorry, I can't see the lines from here. Could you show me the 200-foot and the whatever,
This is
whatever?
the 200, the light blue,
Oh, I see, okay,
and
yeah,
then the 100 is this purple. Comes right across.
okay,
That's
right.
The 100-foot to the BVW.
And how far from the perennial stream? You're in the outer riparian, so you
Yeah.
are between 100 to 200.
Correct.
So maybe about 125, 150.
Well, this is the 100-foot here, so the abandonment of the existing system is probably 110. And then the rest of the system would be probably 150 plus.
So the main work is in between the 75 and the 100? The impact, is that what you're saying?
Between the 75 and the 100 of the BVW.
Yes.
Steve, you've been out to the site?
Yeah.
Findings, recommendations?
Got as far away as they can, making situations the best they can.
You're comfortable with no other alternative analysis?
I don't see any other options. I mean,
And-
don't accept the wetland line and the riverfront line, and it is what it is.
And they're looking to do this as soon as possible?
They have the property.
That's a large system to be in failure near
Well, it is,
the
it's
resources.
four family, right? I had a question if I could. The existing system, it's within the 50-foot no disturb, it's gonna be crushed and filling the existing septic system. I'm wondering what kind of fill are you putting in there where it's so close to the,
Usually they knock in, cave in the top, cave in the bottom, and then fill it with sand and gravel.
sand and gravel?
Is it pumped before you?
Oh, yes.
Pumped and
No,
crushed.
septic
They
tank.
usually call it pumped and crushed.
So it stays in
Okay.
there? You just
Yes.
pump it out and crush
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Any further questions?
None.
Are there any abutters to 7 Lincoln, is it? 7 Lincoln Street.
Now, you understand that there's a 21-day appeal period?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Dealt with Mr. Scanlon before.
Yeah.
He knows the ropes.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to propose a motion to accept the NOI for an improved septic system upgrade for
You got the green cards? Okay.
7 Lincoln Street,
What's the date?
GCC 2014-13.
530,
Ah, we don't have a DEP number.
Oh, they did issue.
161.
I'm sorry, it's not on my.
0787.
You have an early version.
Oh, 077.
0787.
0787, sorry.
And do you need the date of this? is
Plan date is what?
May 5th, 2014.
Okay, super. Not accepting the wetland line or the riverfront line.
We have a second for that.
Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded to approve the NOI for 7 Lincoln Street. Plan dated May 5, 2014. No, we're not accepting the wetland line and not accepting the riverfront line. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to close the NOI for 7 Lincoln Street.
Go.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close 7 Lincoln Street, GCC number 2014-13, DEP 1610787.
Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded to close the NOI for 7 River Street. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Thank you.
See, the training is coming in.
Thank you,
Boy,
You see
this-
that?
Can't stop me now.
We'll contact you Monday, Tuesday with the docs.
Okay, great.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. It being on after 8:20, I'm going to open up a new notice of intent for 61 Old Jacobs Road, GCC 2014-14. That's another new septic system upgrade. If I could have the applicant and consultant, if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Yes, Martin Fear representing Dean Weatherby, who is planning on purchasing the property
And you have the green cards.
yes.
Have a seat. That's 60. Okay, proceed.
61 Old Jacobs Road is on the north side of Kentucky Pond. If you went out West Main Street and took a right on King Street, you made your first right on Old Jacobs. It's next to the last house on the right. There's an existing system that consists of a 1,500-gallon septic tank and a leaching gallery system made of 2 jumbo pits. That's under the driveway and partially in the right-of-way. It failed its Title V inspection. At best, it's probably separated, as a vertical separation of 2 feet from the groundwater, and it's hydraulically failed, so it's in an anaerobic condition, creating an anoxic plume of sewage that travels with the groundwater. We're proposing to reuse the existing 1,500-gallon tank, install a new sanitary tee and an effluent screen, 1,000-gallon dosing chamber, and a leaching trench, low-pressure dose leaching trench that's parallel with the pond floor. So it's low-pressure dose for good distribution, and it's an adequate topography for, also for good distribution of the effluent, minimize groundwater mounding. It's compliant with Title V in that it will have a vertical separation from the groundwater of 5 feet. We've been granted variances by the Board of Health to locate it 5 feet from the property line from the right-of-way to maximize the distance from the resource area. Unfortunately, there's no room to do a system between the house and the right-of-way or on the west side of the house, and the most distance we can provide from the leaching trench to the bordering vegetated wetlands is 28 feet. Rather than grading it in the conventional way according to the regulations, we're proposing an interlocking block retaining wall 10 feet from the leaching trench to provide basically an 18-foot undisturbed zone from the retaining wall to the wetland. The retaining wall, if you were looking at it from the wetland, would have about a 3-foot reveal in the middle, and on either end it would work back into.
And I'm sorry, but could you explain the purpose of the retaining wall again?
Well, normally you would grade, there's the regulations, the storage system regulations require a certain amount of earth fill around soil absorption systems to prevent breakout of storage. Generally, you go out to a point where you would intercept the slope, generally 15 feet from the soil absorption system, and then you're allowed to grade off at a 3-to-1 slope. Or put in a barrier. Sometimes people will put in a barrier, go out 10 feet to the breakout elevation, grade off at a 3-to-1 slope. But that would bring the total slope right to the edge of the wetland.
Does our agent have comments on that?
No concerns. There's not many options. Not much. There's no alternatives.
And how close is the system actually to the pond?
I don't have a scale, but I would estimate.
Doesn't it say 25?
Well,
28?
it's
That's to the
28
wetland.
feet to the
Oh, sorry.
wetlands, yeah. To the open water.
And you got a waiver to be 5 feet from the property line
Yes.
by the road?
Yes.
This system's actually better than the old one before it.
Well, that would be the goal.
Right, so if the retaining wall, I would think we're much better off than we were in the old days.
And the system's in failure.
Yes. It didn't pass its Title V inspection.
What part was leaking?
I think it's backed up hydraulically. It's,
That 1,500 gallon tank isn't affected at all?
no, we will pump out the 1,500 gallon tank and check it for its integrity. Fill it back up, make sure it's not leaking, make sure there are no cracks in it or anything like that. Prior to reusing it, if it doesn't have its integrity or it's not a 1,500 gallon tank, we would replace it with a new 1,500 gallon septic tank.
Are there
Okay.
any other comments from commissioners? Are there any comments from abutters for 61 Old Jacobs Road? None motioning, so I'll entertain a motion to,
Just one question, Mr. Chairman, again to our agent. You've reviewed the proposed plans, you've seen the site. Do you concur that there are no alternatives?
Yes.
Oh, could I ask? I'm sorry.
Too late.
I may have.
Darn
it. You may have said this. I'm sorry. What is between the retaining wall and the BVW?
We're trying to leave that area undisturbed. It's now,
Okay.
it's in lawn.
Would there be any benefit in asking them to leave that as a no cut, no disturb? Would that provide a better buffer?
Always. Like a very limited property, they're looking for waivers, but they're just they're asking to continue to use their house as they have. We tend not to look for mitigation and those things, which I would see that as mitigation for waivers being requested. To answer your question, yes, it would be very helpful to create additional buffer, given the distance, but we typically don't ask for that if the applicant's willing to provide it.
Is that an important part of your yard there?
Yes.
It is. Okay, that's fine. Make sure it grows grass, please.
We'll have a lot of stuff, moisture coming in.
It'll be lush.
Fertilizer.
Okay, I have no other questions.
entertain a motion?
No.
He's been just training.
Yeah, I haven't been there yet.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, where are the plans? Make a motion to issue an order of conditions approving the work for as proposed. GCC 20414, DEP 161-0788, pursuant to the plan entitled Martin Fair RS 44 Stratton Road, Salem, Massachusetts, dated 5/21/14.
Second.
There's been a motion, and it's been seconded to approve the notice of intent for 61 Old Jacobs Road, and the plan dated 5/21/14. No special conditions,
Not approving the line.
not approving the line. Any further questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, all abstaining. Entertain a motion to close the NOI for 61 Old Jacobs Road.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close 61 Old Jacobs Road, GCC 2014-14, DEP 1610788.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion, it's been seconded to close the NOI for 61 Old Jacobs Road, GCC 2014-14. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed, all abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Now we're getting there.
Wow.
It being on or after sometime. On or after 9:25. I'm going to reopen notice of intent for 274 East Main
No, it's a
Street.
new one.
New one.
Oh, new NOI. If I can have the applicant and a consultant.
Thank you, sir.
How are we doing? Trying.
And if you could identify yourself, please.
I'll get started. For the record, I'm Patrick Seecamp, Seecamp Environmental Consulting. Tom Mineta is also here tonight. Team Mineta, site plan. So we're here with this is after the fact notice of intent filing for
some cutting and clearing in the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. This site, just to refresh the commission's memory, this site was the subject of a notice of resource area delineation in the fall of 2013. We walked the site, established the wetland lines. We hired Jillian Davies to do the wetland review, site review. The wetland boundary was approved. The area that we're looking at within the buffer zone is about 11,400 square feet of tree cutting and shrub removal. The stumps of the trees were grubbed, if you will, removed.
So let me ask you before you go too much further. I mean, we had an ANRAD done here, and we knew kind of where the resources. How did we get where we're at?
That activity was substantially done when we did the ANRAD site walk. There was some additional activity. It was a understanding between Jillian and I that that was being sort of in discussion with Steve and the owner. That was as it was sort of discussed on the site. So we never really addressed it during the NRAD process. Additional work was done in there to further remove the stumps after the trees were cut. The slope is substantially the same grade. The topsoils are the same. There hasn't been any stripping or removal of the topsoil. After the tree cutting occurred, there was an understanding that that was a no disturb zone at this point without a filing. The erosion control was put in, which is in place today. It's effective. It's erosion control with a silt sock type barrier in front of it. Silt fence erosion control with the silt sock down at the base. This area that was where the trees were cut was substantially blown with wood chips. There's no erosion or sedimentation. There's obviously a lot of work outside the buffer zone ongoing on the site, but none of that material, there's no movement of soil down and through there. In addition to the tree removal, there was an existing woods road on the site, and Mr. Shula then moved, if you will, he pulled that woods road back and built up about 3 feet in elevation, a newer woods road, basically is how I would describe it. There was already a road there. He's moved that further back away from the wetland line at this point. So that's the existing conditions as they are out there today. There's also an area of rock rubble that's been graded on the site. There's a few of those boulders, I'll call them, that have rolled down off the site and are now just in the outer area of the buffer zone, maybe a foot, 2 feet, right at the base of the slope. The idea would be we have prepared a buffer restoration planting plan to restore back to substantially back to the forested condition of the disturbed buffer. There's also an area below the silt fence that remains undisturbed. It's an area between 50 and 25 feet of existing natural buffer. And there's an area beyond the trees that were removed of natural buffer that was not disturbed. After the proposed buffer restoration tree and shrub planting, it's proposed besides the area that's currently used and was part of the old woods road, we would put a new fresh erosion control barrier at the 100-foot buffer zone line as sort of a, this is going to be the new limit of work for activities on the site during the construction activities outside the 100-foot area and outside the jurisdiction of the commission. That also will serve as a additional erosion control barrier. And it's understood that if there's future activities proposed within the 100-foot buffer zone, you guys would obviously be approached with a notice of intent for those activities. We also have proposed to demarcate the 75-foot buffer zone with monumentation every 30 feet. We'll have a post with the conservation marker at the 75-foot line. The only deviation of that would be at the old location of the old Woods Road where it kicks back in this area, and then it would be up in here.
So monumentation being 4-foot granite posts, 2 feet subradia?
I think we had wooden posts?
We had thought wooden posts would.
The regs require.
Okay.
Granite posts with the
Yeah, we-
conservation grade.
We never use wooden posts, they're gonna rot away. 10
Mm.
years from now, they're gonna disappear, so.
Okay. So, I just discussed briefly, because these were fairly, this was a fairly mid-successional age, well, not a mature forest, but you had some big oaks on the slope. The restoration plan that we've put together includes what I would consider the upper limit of what we would plant on a restoration site. We have 3 to 4 inch caliper red oaks to be put back in there. We also have 3 to 4 inch caliper white pine that will be put back in there. That's consistent with the stand mix of the undisturbed buffer zone. And then in addition to that, and those are gonna have a big root ball. That's gonna be machine work, because they weigh, they're gonna weigh 800 pounds for those trees. Those are pretty much the upper end of what we're gonna be able to plant and be successful at keeping them watered and have a successful, more, survival rate on those. We also have quaking aspen and gray birch, which are early colonizing species, perfect for this kind of disturbance. They tend to grow fast, grow quickly, and they set the foundation for the more native trees and shrubs to seed in there into the restoration area. We have 10 each of those to go in this area. We have 8 of the red oaks, and we have 6 of the white pines. In addition to that, we have 10 each of high bush blueberry shrubs and black chokeberry shrubs, which are consistent with the same species that are in the undisturbed buffer. There's chokeberry and there's high bush blueberry in that area as well. We then would also seed the area with a native wildflower conservation seed mix to promote some additional herbaceous growth. It is starting, you still have the undisturbed topsoil out there, so you're already getting a lot of natural propagation from some of the seeds and propagules that are in the topsoil out there currently. So we're just gonna overseed it, try to promote a more dense.
Does your restoration plan include an invasive species program?
Not for this particular area, because we don't have, as far as I could tell, we don't, in this portion of the wetland that's on site, there aren't any, I didn't see a lot of invasives in that area, so the risk obviously would be, seeds blown in from other areas, but.
But it would be easy to amend your plan to include an invasive monitoring.
Yeah, we can do
and to remove, because it's.
We have a monitoring protocol for the site, so we've already have a monitoring protocol for 2 years, and the standards of which are, we've built in some mortality, if you will, into our planting plan. We always do, because it's understood, you might get 1 or 2 trees that may not make it. So we always plant for the mortality, so we have a 2-year monitoring regime in this. The best way then, obviously, would be to attack, if it's purple loosestrife or whatever, handful.
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah, gets in there. At this point, there's nothing that I see that concerns me on the site, but
just to be cautious.
These things show up, yeah. So we can do that, yeah, we can put in a provision for invasive monitoring and then removal for that as well. In addition, Mr. Shula has provided some screen planting currently to his neighbors directly to his west. And the idea being that we would like to continue that screen planting of white pine and arborvitae plantings, and continue that all the way down, which it's currently stopped short of the buffer zone, but we'd like to continue that into the buffer zone area as a screening for the neighbors. They have a child's play set over there, a swing set close to the property boundary, and it just gives a nice division and a screening privacy for the neighbors. And that also would then be brought around the bottom edge of that new graded driveway, which would provide a further, limit of encroachment off the edge of the driveway there. So again, the driveway is being pulled back away from the wetland line from the original Woods Road. We have a new erosion control boundary being put in at the 100-foot buffer zone. We have tree and shrub planting in the disturbed buffer zone, and then we have the markers at the 75-foot no disturb as signage as a no disturb zone. And then one more thing, anything that we find in terms of dead snags, down rotting logs, branches, typically what I do is we pull those aside after the restoration planting is done. They go back into the buffer planting is just a way to add some biological loading and some critter habitat to kind of bring the area along. And the last thing is we have several boulders I mentioned. Some of those boulders have rolled down into the buffer zone. There's no more than 2 or 3 pretty dominant big boulders. My idea is in the wetland, in the wetland and in the buffer zone, you have several boulders that are half buried, if you will, and the tops are exposed. So we're gonna mimic that. We're gonna take a couple of these boulders while we have the balling in the tree planting machine there. We're gonna dig a hole, we're gonna put the boulders, and they're gonna be half exposed. It just provides a little more crevice and nook and cranny habitat. So we're gonna do that with 2 or 3 of the boulders. And that'll mimic the same sort of landscape features that you see in the undisturbed buffer.
Question.
Go ahead.
A question on the proposed new driveway. It's gonna be wider than the old one that they had in there, correct? And it's still within the buffer zone?
That's
Portions
right.
of it?
That's right, and
It's gonna be,
the idea there was, it's slightly wider, but it's being pulled further back. The width there is because it's actually shorter, if you see, we're using up a less of a footprint. So the radius, the turning radius on that has to be a little bit wider. The idea is, there's going to be, eventually, we're proposing to put a barn outside the buffer zone, but on the site. And this Woods Road was going to be the original access for the drive-in and drive-out of the back of the barn. But the idea is that we want to then use that new driveway for that purpose.
and the new driveway will probably be asphalt or?
No.
Oh, it's gonna be gravel?
It's gonna be gravel, yeah. And we're gonna be planting the bottom edge of it, which is a 3-to-1 slope off the edge of it, because it has been raised slightly, because it's, the Woods Road was on grade and it tended to pitch down toward the wetland. This tends to be more of a flat driveway.
Maybe I missed it, but why was this land, the trees all cut down and graded? What was the, what
I
was the point of
The
that?
homeowner went in there and thought he had the ability to go in there and cut the trees.
But now he's gonna plant new trees.
He has to plant new
I don't
trees,
get
that's
it.
correct.
Can I just speak really quick? I'm a homeowner.
Yes.
And the reason that.
If you identify yourself for the
Well,
record.
my name is Lisa Shula, owner of 274 East Main Street. And it wasn't just a blatant disregard for the buffer zone. That buffer zone wasn't pristine when we bought the property. It was loaded with trash back there, old machines and trash. So this was all part of a cleaning we thought was okay. So it wasn't like we just said, oh, we just want to get rid of those trees. There was a 220 cubic yards of trash, wood, and debris on that property that we cleared. So we left the buffer zone in better condition than when we found it. I know that there are trees missing, but our intent was to put any trees back. We thought it was okay to clear. So it wasn't just a blatant disregard for the area. I just wanted you to know that.
I understand, it just
started
takes,
off with.
it takes a long time to replace some of the trees that were cut, you know.
Could you give us a kind of your take, Steve?
I got involved before these people bought the property, so I walked the site and talked to them about it. Once they bought the property, I watched it again. This really should be an enforcement order for work after the fact. We walked the property, and the gentleman expressed interest in kind of his vision of the future of the property. A lot of really fun, interesting ideas. Once he started getting down towards the buffer, I said, you can't touch this area at all, 0, no activity. And there was an old log road that went through there, logging road. He said, can I at least go through here, keep using it, because it's my access to the back of the property. He said, as long as you pass and repass that road, you can use this little path. Aside from that, no activity. So I hear no intent. There was a dozen monster trees cut down, stumps removed, buffed out, wood chips put on it. When I went back and said, why'd you cut the trees down? He said, I didn't cut trees down. Then why did you cover them up? And so after a while, it came out that, yes, he did cut them. So I have to respectfully
My
disagree.
husband's not a liar. He told you he cut the trees down, but he didn't realize he cut
Okay,
down
so
trees.
the second time I was on the property, I said, no activity on the property at all in this area. And then he went and cut all these trees down. I'm not calling him a liar, I'm just saying, I made it very clear what could be and could not be used done on the property.
So then the question is, why was this not pursued through enforcement? Why did you decide?
The damage was done.
The damage was done, and I'll be honest with you, it's not worth arguing about, because a lot of the work is somewhat allowable by law. I do have some other questions about the project to make it better, but the trees that were removed, it's kind of like removing without permission, but if he came in, hypothetically, most of the trees were within an area that you could have, some of them are not. There is some work within the 50 foot. Again, I do this every day, I say the exact same thing every day, no activity at the 100 foot. He nodded his head, I came back 3 months later and the trees were gone. It's not a miscommunication, someone wasn't listening to me, because I say this, I said it 15
Well,
times.
it's, hence the EO, because EO is our mechanism to correct these things and
And-
make sure they move forward.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, just so you know, we did come in prior to the filing to meet with Steve to go over all the ideas, the restoration activities that we were proposing and sort of work up the plan and the details that we presented to you. So, we wanted to make sure that we, under Steve's direction, had, some of the salient issues addressed. So part of the concern, obviously, is the big trees were cut down. It does take a long time. Oaks are slow growing, there's no doubt. But as I said, there's as a restoration, as the person who's usually out on the ground overseeing and planting these things, there's an upper limit to the sizes that I'm comfortable putting in and then coming back and monitoring. And it's a risk, because a 4-inch caliper tree is not cheap. We have 8 of them. We're trying to bring the structural diversity quicker than if we would putting in conservation grade whips. So we've got a substantial planting plan that does try to bring that all along quicker. And survivability of smaller trees is always better. We're balancing out, how big do we go before we're really pushing the limit on the survivability issue.
So a couple of my other, just to clarify, you mentioned 2 years oversight in the mitigated planting. You actually state 3, and the regulations
sorry.
require 3, just to clarify.
I'm sorry, I'm so used to the state regs, but
Yep.
consistent with Georgetown's bylaw
So
regs,
that's-
we have 3 years of monitoring.
The driveway is being proposed to be gravel. It does enter the 75-foot buffer. One of my questions or concerns was, well, if you ever go to pave it, now it's a waiver to the bylaw, where now you can actually move it. The barn could be kitty-cornered over, the road could be moved out. This is an enormous property, there's plenty of room to move it. This is just where they want to put it. Because pretty much the road was put in before permit was given, permission was given. If the road has to be moved to a point, then it is what it is. My only condition that I put on this is that the road will never be paved.
Is
Because
the barn there yet,
No,
or
it
it's
isn't.
proposed?
So it could all be moved. The road is there, right?
Right.
But what I've seen in the past is they'll come in 2 or 3 years later, oh, well, now we want to pave it.
Yeah,
And-
Yeah, I've
and you
seen
can't-
that
now you
quite
can't move
often.
it. So I mentioned this to the applicant's representatives, that what I would do is move it outside of 75, so it gives you more flexibility in the future, because in my opinion, the commission should never allow it to be paved. So that condition will be put on the perpetual conditions, going forward.
Just to answer that, you're right, you did, and I conferred with my client, and he's fine having that gravel and having it in perpetuity.
So that gravel's in no asphalt products, we're talking.
But
hard
we've
stone.
had problems even in the past when a new owner buys the property and they say, gee, I really want it paved, and
Usually after the first few winters, when they plow all the gravel off the road, they come before us.
It's, that isn't, the issue too is that is not a primary driveway. The primary driveway for the house is, you can see the house in green is where Patrick's finger is, so It's almost like an auxiliary driveway, so it's not, like, not gonna be under
Yeah.
common
So
use,
you
like,
won't need
like
it.
a conventional paved driveway,
What
right?
you're proposing is allowed by the regulations. I'm just reminding the commission and reminding the applicant that in the conditions, it will say that this can never be paved, because you're kind of setting it up to be paved. The other thing is,
I'm fine with that.
the shrub number, given the size of the area and the fact that it is a violation of kind of cleared area without permission, I would actually triple the shrubs. It just seems like a very small number of shrubs for a very large area. Usually we do every 5 feet on center. I don't know what 20 shrubs does, but you're talking a pretty large area.
That's, well.
That's my opinion
yeah.
versus your, again, it's
My
the commission
opinion would be
decide.
that's awful close. I mean, we don't
Yeah.
generally put them 5 feet on center.
But this
10
area
feet on
was
center would be-
very well vegetated, I mean, it had trees, it was scraped down to nothing. If a few of these shrubs get outcompeted over time and die, then that's kind of the natural cycle, and I think it's more reasonable. But for the next 5 or 10 years, these trees are not gonna give very much cover, no. And I think it's important to get that immediate cover, especially since some of the work was in violation and subdivision.
Just so you
My
know,
recommendation.
the native, or sort of the undisturbed buffer, clearly the shrubs are 15 to 20 feet on center.
Correct. But it's a heavily dense wooded area.
Agreed, you have a
Yeah.
heavily dense wooded area, but peppering more shrubs isn't always better. We can put in more shrubs, but these, you need to give them room for their mature crown spread.
So how far apart
So
are
a
they
high
right
bush
now?
blueberry, a mature high bush blueberry will have a 5-foot mature crown spread. So, 10 foot on center, there's 20 shrubs being proposed, it's 11,000 square feet of area, but you're also having a good portion of that area being taken up by the dominant trees as well as the conservation whips. So the shrub is consistent with the densities that you would put in with the tree planting. If you were just doing a early successional meadow, you might put in denser shrubs, because you're trying to fill in all that space.
I don't, on the plan that I have, I don't see a detail of the planting plan.
It's in the narrative.
It's in the narrative. Are you proposing to plant and place the plantings in a way found in nature?
Yes.
Okay.
I was gonna say, John, you know me, I don't like checkerboard planting. What I do is I go out and we'll do some shrub clump plantings. So you might have a high bush blueberry, a black chokeberry, high bush blueberry in a little clump, maybe nestled around the boulder. Then you have your trees. I mean, the trees are gonna be spread because the trees that are out there now are 15 to 20 feet is the standard density. Those are gonna be put in that fashion, but the shrubs are gonna be nestled in as more natural areas. So that was the intent of the shrub planting. It just makes it look better, and, bird habitat and bird use just goes up when you actually provide those little islands, if you will, those edge islands within the plant.
I defer to your expertise on this. We require an additional bit of mitigation in the form of an owl box.
A what?
An owl box on one of these trees?
Owl.
Yeah. OWL. I remember a few years ago.
Spotted owls?
How about an owl?
A few years ago, we
Wait, that's out in Oregon.
we had a project where we required the property owner, special conditions, to have a wood duck box.
Yeah.
So, is the applicant adverse to having an owl box?
No,
No.
no, we
Okay.
can do that. I've done
The owl will thank you. So, that's something for the commission to consider,
Yeah.
just my
You'll have
suggestion.
to incubate the eggs for the owl.
Yeah.
So, your recommendation is 5 foot on center.
More, maybe not 5 feet on center, but I think it's
More
the
than,
right
more
size.
than the 10?
More than the 10.
I mean, I said.
You mean
3
less than the
times.
10?
Well, sorry, maybe 20 instead of, what is it now, 20, maybe 30.
Half again.
Plants in total.
Half again.
It just seems a little, again, if you saw the land before and you see it now, it
I
speaks
can imagine.
way more than just this little description, we didn't go in
Okay,
there. It's,
I think we're fine
it's
with,
new.
with the 10
Okay,
additional.
that sounds good to
We
me.
can add 10. So
Yep.
would you like, I think we'll just do 5 more of each species, Steve.
Or another variety if you want, it doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, okay.
And,
The owl box.
there you go.
You had to throw one wobbly in for the meeting.
I've actually I'm gonna go there.
No, go ahead.
I've actually gone in and girdled standing trees to create dead snags in some of these
Mhm.
restoration areas.
Don't do that here.
So,
No,
so,
I know.
so are you familiar with how to install an owl box and all that? So you know how to position the sun and all that stuff?
Yeah,
So
I've done back
outstanding.
boxes, owl
For
boxes,
great
window
horned.
boxes.
Great horned.
Where would you put this owl box? Is this on a pole?
Oh, it would be on a tree.
But there is no trees.
On a tree.
There are plenty of trees.
Well, we
Yeah,
have
there's
some.
plenty of trees.
I'm sorry, I didn't mention
Oh.
to you, there are actually still some standing in this area.
Well, that's
One
good to
or
know.
two.
There are several mature trees that were not cut, and they are in this area, above the silt fence.
I guess what,
Okay.
I guess I'm trying, what was the actual intent to cut the trees? Were you just trying to make,
Some of them
They were
were
all
dead, but
dead?
the actual intent was, it was, again, the property was loaded in trash and old equipment.
Well,
He was going
trash
in there to
and-
clean it, and when we bought the property, we were told that that old logging road we could use. And I know you are, you think that we did this all after the fact, but these trees were gone almost immediately when we
what
bought the
I'm trying to get
property.
to, were you trying to create
and I'll explain.
lawn or a
No,
field or? I
I'll
guess-
explain it, I'll explain it. We thought everything, because the roadway was already there, that driveway, we thought that was all part of stuff that we could use. So my husband Michael said, instead of making the road go all the way back as far as it went, the driveway, he was gonna pull it up. In order to pull it up, he cut the trees down. We were very ignorant, I will admit, to the whole wetlands buffer zone and the whole thing, or else we would have held the prior owner accountable for what was already on the buffer zone. There was a lot of stuff that shouldn't have been there. He thought he was improving the buffer zone, and so he didn't think it mattered. We then sat down with Steve, and Steve said, I don't wanna see you cutting trees down. We both looked at each other. We were up here in one of the meeting rooms downstairs, and I think Tom was going to be at the meeting shortly thereafter and said, uh-oh, damage already done. We didn't know what to do at that time, and maybe we should have spoke up at that time, but we didn't, because our intentions were to just restore the area anyway, so we didn't know the impact we were having. So it wasn't just like it was a pristine area, again, full of beautiful vegetation. It was full of broken glass, wood, tires, rotting machinery, rusting. I mean, it was stuff that equipment needed to pull out. And I had some pictures. The property, like I said, was unbelievable amounts of trash, even into the wetlands. And Steve told my husband to stop using equipment. Michael walked into the wetlands and pulled the trash out of it. I mean, there was so much stuff in there, but no one cared about it then, so we didn't think it was that big of an issue if we were just cleaning and clearing. And now we understood, after he said, don't cut the trees, we shouldn't have cut the trees. But it was our ignorance in the very beginning. But this was done back in like August. Those trees were missing. I know you didn't notice it,
I told you, first time on the property, I said,
but it was
you can
after
use
the
this
fact.
road, you can use this road, and there's all this trash everywhere, and said, can I hand pick it out? I said, yes, you can hand pick it out, you can use the path. But then the clearing, the tree cutting went another 30 feet beyond that. So again, miscommunication, whatever you want to call it, they went about 5,000 times beyond what I had recommended, right from before they even owned the property.
Right.
So,
And we see
ANRAD,
this.
all this other stuff in meetings, it's irrelevant. I walked on the property day one, before they even owned it, and said what they could and can't do.
Yeah, and we see this often where people just don't understand. It's very unfortunate. But your replanting plan,
Yeah, it's, just, I guess, not to keep this going, but it's not like they went in, put the hay bale line and cleared right up to it the whole 400 feet of that area of buffer zone. He did, and I'm not making excuses, he did cut the trees, but in that one area. It's not like he went in malice and just like wiped out this whole buffer zone. He did do it where he was, doing some work that, again, is in the buffer zone, and that's why we're here. So I don't want you to think that he just went in there with a skidder and wiped out 400 linear feet of buffer zone, so.
One more thing, Mr. Chairman, I failed to mention, there's an existing loam pile, which when the previous owner owned the site, he had a lot of chickens, he had all kinds of stuff. Well, this pile is 12 feet tall, and a portion of which does extend into the buffer zone. That pile is still there. The intent as part of this is we're gonna pull that loam pile back out of the buffer zone. It's gonna be used eventually, no sense in putting the erosion control up to the base of the loam pile and then putting a little blip around the
Mhm.
outside edge of it. We're gonna pull it back and put the erosion control at the 100-foot buffer zone line. And as Mrs. Shula did indicate, I remember there was some bottle dump, old debris, not such old stuff, plastic jugs, milk bottles and stuff down in the buffer zone. That was handpicked. I know that was handpicked because I did talk to Mr. Shula about it, and he had left a gap in the erosion control wide enough for a wheelbarrow to get in there and pick all that out. And there are other areas on the site, particularly in the area of the old house. There was another existing dwelling, and behind that, there's a lot of trash, metal, and debris that he's continuing to clean up on the site. So there was a lot of debris. It was a piece of property that was used for, 100 years. A lot of chicken coops, a lot of outbuildings, a lot of metal debris laying out in the woods.
Can I ask what we need to do? Do we need to, can we condition
Do we have a
this?
DEP, we do have a DEP file, and do we want to wait for comments, or how does the commission feel? But I think you're on the right track.
Because I know that we want to expand the number of shrubs and the kinds, and the plantings that are going in. Is that something that we can do with, in the conditions, or do we need to continue?
You can condition it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we would just, like we did with the previous, a draft. So the additional plantings and.
The owl box.
There you go.
Oh, John. Steve, is there anything else you want us to address?
I mean, it's really permission after the fact.
I know it is, and
It
it's
is what it is,
unfortunate.
but it is what it is, but I think
Yeah, in
they
this,
proposed a
it's
good
kind of a
plan.
case I would, in reality, prefer to have issued an EO and then have them file after the fact.
Yeah.
Are there any abutters to 274 East Main Street? Yes. Do you have any comments?
Yes, the lady at the back.
Oh, sorry, yes, ma'am?
We know she hasn't.
My name is Gloria C. Boyer.
Thank
I
you.
live at 246 East Main Street. I am not a direct abutter, however, I am abutting to the marshland or swampland or whatever you want to call it out there. My primary concern through this whole reconstruction of the area is they have removed a lot of trees. My understanding is he can do what he wants with his property. But my concern is the water table and how it is going to affect those of us who get flooded out when we get too much rain. And my concern now is they have removed all the trees which was holding the moisture. And now when it rains, it's gonna all go down into the marshland, and that will up the water level, which will put more water in my yard and in my cellar and in the people around me's cellar. And that has been my concern all along. But apparently, there wasn't much I could do about it. But now I understand that they are going into the buffer zone. And I don't think that that should be allowed.
Thank you.
Because of, like I said, they've eliminated the trees and the roots and everything that was holding the moisture and keeping it from rushing down the hill and flooding. And reminds me of the California incident where the trees all burned down, and so they had mudslides all over the place. And like I said, I've lived there for 52 years. I have seen the water table change over that 52 years due to cutting down part of the land, cutting down the trees, and the building in the area. And that's my prime concern, is how it's going to affect the water table. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And we have seen that happen. We've seen that happen before, and
Oh,
it's
sure.
a real concern. It's a real concern, losing giant trees like that. That's a huge,
They suck
that's a
up, every day they
huge
suck up a lot of
problem.
water.
They do.
Yes, we view trees as part of a stormwater management system. A good-sized tree can soak up 1,000 gallons of water in a significant rain event. So that's a concern. I'm just at a loss to figure out what to do after the fact.
Plant big trees.
Often it's
Plant
not-
as
I
big as
mean,
you can.
So you talked precedent in the past. The last similar situation when someone cut 3 trees down on the pond, they were required to plant 2 to 1 and pay $300 per a fine for $300 per tree on the damage done. And that was I forget the address.
Gloria Road.
It was Gloria and then another one more recently, but yeah.
What's
So that's when you say, you know, what the
And that was a
options-
pond issue as well.
Yeah, yep. So I mean, it's a buffer. So in this area, there was trees cut down within the 50 foot. So you talk about what can be done. They've done as much as you can kind of do after the fact. But
Right.
if this was an enforcement order, there'd be fines involved. And so we bypassed that aspect
Yeah.
by going directly to notice of intent. But
Yeah.
the only thing we've really bypassed is the fining component.
Yeah.
But this is gonna cost a lot of money. So.
It is, that
This
is,
you know, a 4-inch caliper tree is.
But how
substantial.
big were the trees that got cut down, caliper wise?
Well,
They were probably 12-inch average DVH, so they were a mid-successional, at a mid-successional state.
Hardwood, you said oaks?
Primarily oaks, there was some birch.
I'd say larger than that, based on
Sure.
memory.
Identify
Based on
yourself,
memory.
please.
Christina Shula, I'm Lisa Shula's daughter. The trees cut down in the buffer zone, it wasn't like, oh, here's a beautiful, alive, luscious tree, let's chop down for no reason. They were trees that were dead or dying with limbs that were falling, everything. So how much water do those really suck up? They were dying, dead trees. It's not like they were, let's cut this one down, I wanna cut that one down. It was not like that. These were dying, dead trees that's why they were cut down and chosen to be removed. So it's not like they were live trees.
Well, did an arborist make that determination? Who made the determination they were dead?
Everyone cutting down, well, there was no leaves on them, so I guess everyone can look at the tree.
Well, if I go to in wintertime and I cut trees down, they all look dead, don't they?
I mean, I was out there before, the trees were all perfectly healthy and fine. If you look up, the understory, there's dead branches, because that's how understories are with tall trees. The trees were all fine. There was no dead trees out there.
okay, well, what's done has been done.
So, yeah,
And
we're trying to-
there's an aggressive restoration plan in effect, but really, it's really sad. It's quite sad and very legitimate concerns as to the knock-on effect from something like that.
So, I mean,
It's
you know.
serious.
So, you know, I wanna make sure we have a robust replication and replacement plan.
And you say in addition to the shrubs, the trees and the shrubs, you're going to be underplanting with a meadow mix?
Yeah, we have a wildflower and a native wildflower and a conservation meadow mix.
Okay.
And we're
All
kind
right.
And that's gonna be, that's gonna be your primary community for the
Right,
next.
initially.
Yeah, initially, and the habitat
And that
will
will
come
help
back.
control the erosion as well as everything else.
Correct, the oaks.
When will you be putting that in?
Yeah.
Well, this is an issue because we're approaching
Dry.
July and August, and with trees that big, we're really getting out of there's 2 planting seasons of the year, early spring and in the fall.
Right.
So we're gonna be doing the big dominant tree planting in the fall. We can seed the wildflower and the conservation seed mix now, because that'll get
Will that be successful, do you
Yeah,
think?
that'll will be
Okay,
successful.
because I am a little concerned about erosion with
Yeah.
the soil being left there
Yeah,
over the
no,
summer.
I wanna get the seeding done
Large
now.
rain events.
But the tree and shrub planting really is a fall planting because we're losing the spring planting season.
Okay, as long as we can have some kind of erosion control with the seed mix, et cetera, before then.
Yes, yeah.
Do you think it would be advantageous to, I hate to burden our agent with this, but maybe we can condition Mr. Seecamp to serve as an environmental monitor where he provides weekly reports to our agent documenting the integrity of the erosion control.
Speak up, please.
Sure. One of the questions concerns the possibility of erosion. We're entering the dry season, so anything planted now, large trees, probably would be better off planted in the autumn. But the applicant is suggesting that they plant shrubs now to minimize exposed soils, to cut down on erosion. What did I say? I forgot.
Having Mr. Seacamp
Having
monitor it.
Mr. Seacamp, designate Mr. Seacamp, the applicant's representative, who's an environmental wetlands scientist, to provide weekly reports to our agent documenting the integrity of the erosion control, just so there isn't a blowout and the wetlands don't fill up with soil until the vegetation can take hold. Just a thought, just something for the commission to think
Well,
about.
we need to move this along.
Steve, can you check on that?
How do you feel about that?
What do you
want to do,
think?
or do you want?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, the site has a lot of soil on it, but for the most part, the slopes at that tail end up to the wetland are pretty flat. So considering the amount of soil on site, I'm actually not as concerned about erosion as you would think.
Okay, so maybe if Steve could wander by every now and then.
2 or 3 weeks, I could
Okay.
check.
I'm happy with that.
I'm sure you'll do it anyway.
There hasn't been, as I said earlier, in my opening statement, there hasn't been a lot of movement of, considering the site and the site
Yeah,
is
I
being
mean, there's
worked on.
thousands of yards of open soil.
A lot of open soil. There hasn't been any movement of soil toward the wetland, so I agree with Steve, I'm not that concerned that, it's not a highly erodible, it's a pretty porous.
What?
You agreed with
gravelly
what?
material.
Did we hear
Did
that?
I say that on the record?
Yeah. We'll strike the record.
A moment of weakness.
It's okay. I
You're
won't
tired,
take-
you wanna
I
go
won't-
home.
I won't take it personally.
As long as you keep an eye on
I
it
will,
and
I
because, those big thunderstorms, et cetera, in the late summer, I do have concerns about that
So
flooding.
That's fine, but I guess I would
But-
say anything like, say, over a half inch.
Yeah.
And because this is a violation, I don't see why the taxpayers should have to pay for
that's
Steve
right.
to go out. It should be.
I mean, in reality, it should have come under an EO, and they should have
Yeah.
been paying some penalties. so.
That's standard stormwater monitoring anyway, after a half inch of rain,
But it never gets done.
It never gets
Just
done.
for the record.
get done on this site.
Okay, good.
So
And that's
anyway.
and that's on the record.
That's right.
Can I report, if I do it, can I report to you by email?
If or
Just
when
say,
you do it.
Steve, I went by the site, here's my report.
That's fine.
We had a half inch of rain, I went by, I checked the erosion control.
Include some pictures.
And some pictures, yeah.
That's fine.
It'll
Okay.
make it more efficient
Yeah.
for me, and I
That's
can
fine.
get the report to you immediately.
That's what you do for me, so that works fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I will do is, obviously I'm down in this area quite frequently, so it's, I'm gonna be doing it on the fly, and I'll pop in and take a look after every major rainstorm and such, and then I'll have a email report.
You can check out the owl box too, and let us
That's
know if
right.
there's anything.
And that
Oh,
should be in
geez.
perpetuity.
You have to come and know.
Okay, can we approve this?
Don't look at me.
You wanna make a
We can
motion?
until you make a motion.
Okay, so let me just review what we're doing. We're adding 30 shrubs instead of the 20,
Correct.
right?
Adding 10 more.
We need John's owl box. And we need Mr. Seacamp to monitor.
And we're changing the wooden post to
Oh,
granite
gosh,
granite
yes.
post.
The no cut, no disturb bounds are to be granite according to our regs. And we need Mr. Seacamp to monitor. Are we going to say how often or just as
I
needed?
think as needed per rain event.
Okay.
However
If
you
it's
wanna-
July and August and it's bone dry,
Yeah.
dust is more gonna be a problem than.
No, we're
could see over
keeping
a
the
half
same
inch.
number of trees, but we're adding more shrubs. There were 20, we're taking it up to 30. Okay?
And
Is that
condition
our
the
list?
driveway, right? Condition the driveway.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
In,
Thank you.
Not paved in
Perpetuity, that'll
perpetuity.
be perpetual
On the
condition.
driveway within the 75-foot buffer.
Driveway not paved in, can't spell that, right.
Within the
Yes, I can.
75-foot buffer.
I'm sorry, within the 75
I mean,
buffer.
outside it's allowed by law,
I know,
so it's more the inside of that 75.
okay, all right.
No
Okay, so
asphalt
it's gonna be long.
product, no paving. You don't have to recite them. I mean, you can just say as we discussed.
Okay,
You don't have to-
alrighty.
I have them all.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I propose a motion that we accept,
There's
pardon? One more? Oh, I'm
Sir,
sorry.
Identify yourself, please.
They'll know.
They put a sign, owls this way.
Yeah, we need to add advertising.
Oh, no, it's a good size.
I just wondered how,
Yeah.
I've never seen one, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good size opening, and a bluebird likes little tiny.
Yeah, okay, all right, I can
Yeah.
understand that. I just know I have no idea.
Yeah.
You'll know there's an owl there when all your songbirds
Put
are
an ad
gone.
in the paper, all blocks for rent.
And you're awake at 3 in the morning because the stupid owl shooting.
Arrows.
150 a month with
Owls this way.
150 a month with utilities.
You were making a motion, I
Poor Susan.
You look for
Okay.
the cat collars.
Yeah.
That's better, yeah, I like that.
In the owl pellets, the little jingle
Okay,
bell.
folks, we gotta
Okay.
make a motion here. We need to move on. We got another hearing after this.
Believe it or not, I know. Okay, so, to approve the NOI for, 274 East Main Street, GCC 2014-15, DEP 1610789, including the revisions as discussed.
Conditions.
And the conditions as discussed. And is there a plan?
There is. This would be site plan. Go.
Site
You want
plan,
Effective 6/4. Is that?
to- Yep.
six,
Site plan to
four,
accompany notice of
14?
intent. Yep.
6/4/14, okay.
Do we have a second?
Second.
The motion is for second to approve the plan dated 6/4/14 with the conditions as previously discussed. Is there any further discussion from the commission? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to close the NOI for 274 East Main Street.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the hearing on GCC 2014-15, DEP 161-0789.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded to close the notice of intent for 274 East Main Street. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Thank
Sorry.
you.
Aye.
I already wrote you in as well.
You abstained?
You'll get all the paperwork, middle of next
What do
week.
you have against owls?
I was drinking. That's a great idea.
Cam, I love it.
Owl cam.
Oh, an owl cam.
Okay, let's keep this rolling.
Live stream it to school.
It being on or after 8:40, I'm going to open up
Live on TV while they're all screaming.
new notice of intent for
Always
American
dropping
Legion
live.
Park. GCC 2014-16. That's proposed
That's easy.
work on the playground within a 100-foot BBW at the park. If I could have the applicant or consultant.
Excuse me.
And if you could identify yourself for the record,
You
please.
guys take the conversation outside, please. Thank you.
Here's my gavel.
Just use your head.
Move the pen.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi,
He's-
I'm Juliet Reck, representing Park and Rec.
I like how Jimmy hides behind us.
Barshek Talaco.
From Hancock Engineering, representing the Park and Rec Commission, and Jim DeManto, also from the commission. Okay, so what we are proposing here, I imagine most of you are familiar with the playground and the American Legion Park on Pentucket Pond. But just to quickly to orient everybody to the plan. So Pentucket Pond is here. We have delineated the wetland along in order to determine the 100-foot buffer zone. The end of the pavement for the parking lot is here, and then there's a side walkway into the first portion of the play area, and the second portion of the area is sort of behind the concession stand, which is right here. The beach is here, and there's an open grass area, and then there is a ball field, and eventually the tennis courts. The area is basically accessed from the parking lot by pathways, and it's occupied basically by the playground, wooden playground equipment. That's located in an area that's mostly just sand and gravel. And so what we are proposing is to renovate the play area. As part of this renovation, we are going to remove all of the playground equipment that currently there is. The only thing that's gonna stay is portion of the play castle in this corner. And after it, the area is going to get leveled. I mean, it's already leveled, but just backbladed to prepare it for the installation of the safety fall zone. And we're gonna remove 6 trees, which are shown as these green spots, and they are identified on your plan with a note that says TBR, to be removed. They are all deciduous, evergreen, and they are mostly Scotch pines. After that is done, it's going to be leveled, and then we're going to install plastic landscape timbers to contain then the wood fiber material that's actually going to be the safety fall zone.
The safety fall zone.
Right. In other words, in order to have a playground, you have to have something soft. You cannot just have sand and gravel.
Kids can't fall on the ground, I guess?
Not anymore.
Not if you want to not pay all sorts of insurance in addition to what the town already pays.
The sand that's there now is only a 2-foot fall zone. We have a lot of equipment that the fall zone is a lot higher than 2 feet. If you stand at the top of any slide and a kid falls off and gets hurt, we're a liability now. The playground is no longer to code. Some of the equipment we're proposing is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet off the ground. We're going to be putting 12 inches of wood fiber safety surfacing, sort of like a mulch. It's a specific kind that they use on playgrounds that actually interlocks and forms a flat
OSHA would
surface.
require you to be in a full body harness over 4 feet.
It's going to give us a 9-foot fall zone.
The schools weren't allowed to go visit the park in June.
Can you please state your name?
Jim Benento from Georgetown Park and Rec, they were, because we didn't have an approved park. So normally in June, they start showing up, but not anymore.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. In addition, we have submitted, obviously, the notice of intent. We submitted a
Go ahead,
drainage.
Okay, can we have the green cards, please?
Yes, I'm just taking them out. I'm anticipating you're gonna ask for them. There's a lot of abutters.
You're cutting down 4 trees?
6.
6 trees,
Thank you,
and
sir.
they're being cut because you want...
We're maximizing the play zone, the new equipment that we're proposing to put in. These big trees are really impacting the area of design to try to maximize as much play equipment as we can. There's not a lot of areas in Georgetown to be putting a lot of parks with playgrounds, so we're going to try to give the town as much equipment as we can. Phase 1 does not include as much equipment as there is now. Wooden equipment's a lot cheaper than the nice new plastic and steel equipment we're proposing to put in, but we are building this with room to grow. We're going to be surfacing these areas and leaving big open areas that will be safety surfaced and contained for future growth of pieces. And removing those trees now is going to be a lot cheaper than trying to get in and do it later. We'd rather clear the area with room to grow.
Juliet, there's also the 4 feet you need. There's other regulations that we gotta adhere to as far as a 4-foot zone. And those trees now impact some of that, so. Actually, the footprint of the new park right now will be a lot less than the old park, the actual usable area, but, it's basically, there's some regulations now, those trees would hamper some of the regulations about having a play area.
Swings need 6 feet in front, 8 feet in front, 8 feet in back now. All this new equipment has to
How
have.
did we ever survive? I don't know. How did I get to be this
It's a
age?
miracle.
The other thing is, part of those trees.
Natural
is
selection.
All of the trees are allowed to be cut under the regulations, just to bring it back to the regulations, sorry, to do that. One of them's just inside the line, it's 49 feet or 48 feet.
They
So
used
it's
to have
only
a-
one
they used to
tree.
have a
One tree that's in the buffer?
That's kind of a waiver, right?
Waiver,
This-
that's a waiver.
All of the trees, all 6 trees are in the 100-foot buffer. But when there's certain things are allowed at certain, outside the 50, you're allowed to cut trees, kind of by law, it's just going through the process. So most of these trees do meet the regulations. We always try to just encourage people not to cut trees.
Right.
There's just so what waivers are being asked for?
Mhm.
One tree.
One tree.
So it's a Scotch pine you need to cut down.
All 6 of them are mostly Scotch.
They are mostly.
Just so you know, Kyle, they used to have a swing, that's one of the playthings, they just swing around. I learned how to distrust my brothers on that, because I probably got hit by that.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, what you're not teaching the kids is not to distrust their fellow man, which is just as important as to trust, I guess, but other than that, it's a newer generation.
Apparently.
So,
Yes.
I mean, the bottom line is this doesn't really have any waivers. It's approvable plan, you know, it's just going through the process.
And so are you here to have a tree approved?
Well,
No,
it's
I'm
work in
here
a
for
buffer.
all the work within the buffer.
Oh, sorry,
zone.
sorry.
It's
We're
work
just
within the
talking
buffer,
trees
but I'm talking-
at the moment.
I'm talking-
Gotcha.
I'm talking waivers.
Gotcha.
Right, all the
Okay.
other activities allowed in the buffer, in the zone they're in.
Super.
So we wanna make sure that erosion, so for example, there's a lot of erosion issues off the bottom right corner into the pond from the
Mm.
site. In my opinion, all of this work will make improvements to that.
Mhm.
And I've been involved with this, talking about it for years now. This will improve a lot of the issues we have down there as far as erosion. I'm hoping as part of it, we can resolve some of the stormwater coming off of the parking lot down to the pond with
Yep.
you guys.
That's been quite a big issue, hasn't it?
It's got a lot better, but it
Mm.
still needs some fine tuning, I guess.
You mean from this parking lot?
Yeah, but it goes along the side of this project into the water, along the beach. And so, this will prevent a lot of water from flowing down there, I hope.
Well, I mean, I, as part of this application, I prepared an O&M
Mhm.
manual because it has to meet the drainage calculations. And I suggest, basically, that after any significant rainstorm, people go out there, walk it, and sort of look at as any erosion into the pond. And I'm really thinking in terms of this playground, which would basically be over here, mostly past the fence, really, because the area is substantially flat, except once you get beyond the fence, which basically be tracing with the siltation barrier. You know, of course it's sand, there's some erosion, but I think if somebody just at least keeps an eye on it, and if there's something really severe, rakes it out, throw some mulch or something, that would really help. And that's all included in your package. As Steve mentioned, you're asking for, you know, minor waiver of this tree. And we had some issues with getting a DEP number that has, and a no comments, that has been resolved. I guess DEP has some sort of a problem with their computer system. And so even though they say no comment, it doesn't get onto the website. And so we contacted Pamela Merrill at DEP, and she has sent me and Steve an email that there is no comments and that the number is fine. You know, essentially, we are just restoring and improving an existing
Existing
Mm-hmm.
facility.
That's the bottom line.
And we're doing that silt the silt sock fence.
Yeah, right
Mhm.
here. That's just a temporary thing, Julia.
Okay.
And so the potential for erosion into the pond after the completion of the project will be much reduced.
Right, because all of this area in here will have the wood fiber safety and it will be
Right.
contained. And so any water that falls on it will actually come down and kind of slow down, won't be able to run off in all
Right.
direction as it does today.
It's been a nightmare erosion-wise
Oh,
for
yeah.
years.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Peter Durkee's always down there touching it up. This is a huge improvement.
Yeah.
Huge improvement.
With the exception of those trees, which I've always loved in the middle there.
Yeah, but that's
Nice
really
and
a
shady
safety
and
issue.
lovely. I know, but it's so
But
shady.
You should feel confident that we are leaving all the deciduous trees. There's some big
Right.
oaks that are staying.
Good.
Which actually will provide much more shade than a Scotch pine.
But they won't make the swing seats sappy and sticky.
That's
So when you talk about
that,
growing up.
What kind of wood fiber are you talking about? I mean, you're talking about wood chips? I mean, what do you?
Julia,
Solid
You know,
it's a specific.
All the playground
product.
companies use this now. I don't know, maybe it's
He
how they
doesn't
chip
spend
it
a
or
lot of
something.
time
I
on
know it's a lot
playgrounds.
more
Oh, no, no.
expensive than regular mulch you go buy at Home Depot.
I think it's wood. It's a wood product. It's how they
Mhm.
chip it. They, you know,
You know what they
sharp
make all that
edges
stuff out of? Scrap wood.
It's more like almost like cellulose. to
Cellulose.
some
and-
extent.
Yeah, but it's how it's
They
processed.
take old
It's
pallets, grind them up.
Yeah,
Pressure treated.
it's good use.
Oh, lovely.
There you go.
You leave the nails
Okay.
in.
So what do we need to do? We just need
I'm
to,
recommending approving it.
Yes,
There's
sounds
one tree being removed. That's the only waiver I see.
that's good.
Perfect.
You
Yeah,
know,
we'll,
just need a butter comments, and
yeah.
that's then we're good to go.
are there any
Sorry,
abutters to the American Legion Park notice of intent? You have any comments to make, sir? Please identify yourself for the record.
I'm Steve Kachakian, 14 Pentucket Avenue in Georgetown. I'm in the butter right next to the park. I don't think Hancock Engineering has anything to do with buying the equipment. That's gonna be, I think it's this guy right here. Am I right?
Park and Rec will purchase
or the
it.
Park and Rec, okay. But, no, I have no objection to what they're gonna do. They're gonna make it a lot better than what it is right now. That's about it. That's,
Okay, thank you, sir.
I got no objection.
It's the only nice park in town,
Your
really, I
playground.
think, for
Oh.
kids.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your support. It's always good to hear
Well,
and
you
part
know,
of being excited.
A lot of people, the playground did provide a lot of
I'm gonna get teary-eyed.
good usage. I think it's now moved into the next phase of what people do for playgrounds, so.
But it's still gonna stay a playground, right?
Still gonna stay in this area, we'll
Still-
still play playground, and,
It's
you
still
know,
gonna be great for the
it was,
kids.
that was a community build done in 1980, so
Into a
that was
condition?
good.
And it's gonna be a community build again.
Right.
The community gets to help build it again.
Oh, wow.
Just one comment, Mr. Chairman. How does the commission feel about a bat box?
It might scare the kids.
The slower running kids.
You've heard this thing called rabies, right?
Oh,
We have
gee.
a goose siren, so maybe that justifies us.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
You're traumatizing the poor geese.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if there are no further comments, it's my pleasure to make a motion to issue an order of conditions approving the work, GCC 2014-16 DEP 161-0786, pursuant to the site plan for playground modifications at American Legion Park, dated
6-5.
6/5/2014.
It's actually 6/4.
6/4.
Signature is 6/5, the plan is 6.
I was gonna write it as
Sorry.
such, don't even listen.
Whatever.
It's 10:30.
I amend my motion to include 6/4.
6/4.
6/4/14.
Is there a
Second.
second? We have a motion, it's been seconded to approve the notice of intent for American Legion Park, GCC 2014-16, and I didn't hear any special conditions for this.
I didn't hear any. I'm not recommending any.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining. I'll entertain a motion to close the NOI for American Legion Park.
Mr. Chairman, I do make a motion to close GCC 2014-16, DEP 161-0786.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion, it's been seconded to close the NOI for American Legion Park. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
You'll hear from us
Lovely.
next week.
Thank you for doing that.
Do what?
You'll hear from us from the paperwork,
Okay.
middle of next week.
Okay.
Do with all
Thanks,
this
Steve.
I take it.
So, John, what do you do now with this?
I have a bunch of flower
Gonna
beds that need
Talk to
weed
someone or
guard.
peel? Are you
I
just
put
gonna
it
go?
down, then I shovel
up in a
dirt and
landfill.
mulch on top of it.
That she's gonna burn it.
We're on camera.
Dance around on it.
The meeting's still open.
In can.
amazing.
Did you
Really?
want to keep
I didn't know if you have people
Right.
to refer back
it?
on.
We have files in the
Oh,
office,
you need
copies
training.
of everything.
I
Lovely,
have too much,
thank
I
you.
have enough paper.
Guys, can we, so we're still on camera, meeting's still running, we have a lot of paperwork to
We
do.
still have some bills and other
Yep.
things to
Yeah.
do.
So, sorry, you can chat afterwards, sorry. I'm
You
gonna-
only asked me a simple question.
So a whole bunch of stuff to sign. This is the order of conditions for the project you just approved, American Legion Park. Two pages to sign each document. Sorry, still hoping to get out before 11.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I actually signed in your spot.
That was-
You're allowable
That
this
wasn't
one
an
last
That was on
time.
purpose, I saw.
Thanks, guys.
And you better sign quick, because you're gonna turn into a pumpkin soon.
274 East Main Street order of conditions that you guys approved tonight. 61 Old Jacobs Road order of conditions that you approved tonight. 11 Winter Street order of conditions that you approved tonight. Two places to sign on each doc. 7 Lincoln Street order of conditions that you approved tonight. Bills to pay. Townsend Oil, Camp Dennison 129. Timberland Supplies, Camp Dennison revolving, a little under 200. Parker River Clean Water Association. This is, a while back, for the new commissioners, the Conservation Commission voted to give money to the Parker River Clean Water Association to pay for Blanding's turtle research and work. So in the past, what we did is we just cut a check to them and they paid the invoice as they came in. The town's view on this has changed, and now they want us, instead of just giving $10,000 to this organization for a good project, they want us to actually pay bills as they come in. So this is a bill for $1,300, and just to kind of explain more, so this is for 54 hours for turtle biologists to be in the field doing these inspections and protection on
You
these.
said the town wants. The town is not a person.
The town the town accounting group, financial officer. Pretty much-
Makes more sense.
It's more accountable versus cutting a check and saying, hey, now Parker River Clean Water Association is a great
They have to
organization.
explain themselves every time they write.
Yeah, and I think it's a cleaner way of doing it, so I don't disagree with it, but I just want to explain, most of the commissioners aren't gonna know what this stuff is, just coming through, we need to make a motion to pay bills after. We are getting, the different land use departments are getting a large-scale printer, scanner, copier, machine. It's a huge copier. Fax print, I think.
Big boy, yeah.
Our portion of it is $1,000. It's an over $8,000 machine.
And what's it gonna be used for?
This is nice because we'll be actually able to scan large documents. So
I
if,
thought,
say
I
we,
thought the CPC allocated a whole bunch of money for this
they
project that
did,
never
and
happened.
the machine they got didn't scan.
And
Oh, for goodness sake.
I know nothing. I had nothing to do with that project. I'm not gonna say anything. So, we've kind of been asked, that 8,000 to put in 1,000. We have a conservation revolving fund where all of our fees go into, which is pretty substantial, so that's not even a dent in that account.
wait, why do departments get their own?
Excuse me?
Why don't departments get their own? For $1,000, I can buy a pretty copy.
This is the printer we're getting, it's huge, it's the size of that table.
It's for site plans.
$8,500
It has
for
a
the
big
machine.
scanner on it.
Yeah, I mean, the rolls of paper are this
Oh,
big,
this one has a
4 feet
scanner?
long.
It has a
So,
scanner.
That's the nice thing, so we have to scan it and then send it, so say we get a site plan, you say, what's a site plan look like? I end up copying a little tiny section and scanning it, this way I can scan
Is
the
it
full doc.
are they buying a maintenance contract?
I have no idea.
Because
This is
they
going,
break down quite often and.
this is being kind of facilitated by the planning department.
Like selling the old machine?
They're taking it in trade. I think they're getting like $1,500 for the old machine, so they're getting something for it. So we actually have 2 different machines, both don't work very well in the office. One of them's getting surplused and sold, and the other one's getting traded in. So we're getting rid of 2 machines, both sides of that table, and getting one.
Getting one, yeah.
The office is gonna open up a little bit. Light department down at Camp Dennison, $160. Amesbury Industry Supplies, Camp Dennison, $59. Alarm Services, $221 for Camp Dennison. Paint, Camp Dennison, $116. Merrows, I don't even know what they are. For Camp Dennison, oh, it's just hardware, must be a hardware store, I've never heard of it, $70. And travel and expense for the department for 30 and 51 cents, travel and sell. And that's it on the bills as read. So, I just need a motion to pay bills.
Entertain a motion to pay bills, as read by Steve.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to pay the bills as read by our agent.
Have a second?
Second.
There's a motion, it's been seconded to pay the bills as read by our agent. Is there any further discussion? I mean, on some of those bills, is it, can you determine what's actually being bought? I mean, some of these
The
things are-
invoices, so we don't pay bills without an invoice. That one hardware store was nuts and bolts and some hardware. I just didn't recognize the company name. Usually I can tell by the front cover what the company name is, what the actual invoice is for. But if you're ever curious, I mean, I read through them pretty quickly, and sometimes there's twice that many. If you ever want to literally just flip the cover of the one you sign, I'll hand them around as you do them.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, so there's an invoice. We don't pay bills unless there's an invoice to go along with it. So this is for paint, and it actually itemizes it under the invoice.
And they're very detailed.
Yeah, So if you ever have any questions on these, again, I read them fast.
Yeah, but I
This
mean,
is not just a plug and play signing thing.
As far as, as far as accountability, we don't know what actually happens in the paint, and, you know.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Very true.
Someone could order 30 gallons when they need 10 gallons.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, I
Is
do
it ever-
look
we don't
through
really
them
audit
and
it.
kind of give them a quick over, but for the most part, Camp Dennison group does so much with so little. They scavenge a lot, they get a lot of
Right.
donations, they do a huge amount of work. You know, my biggest thing is the administrative of the paperwork. They go and buy a box of screws, and then 2 days later go get, you know, a lug nut. And it's just like, look,
We have to
you know,
sign for it.
They're not overbuying.
but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
so it's more the
administratively.
number of these bills that come. That's my biggest complaint from administrative, and I'm sure Susan can agree with me. It's administrative. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt.
for-
Yeah, exactly. But that's it. Let's see. I guess we can just
Whiz.
motion to close.
Was that seconded?
No. Can I ask, I have one thing I'd like
Yes.
us to discuss.
Please,
Um,
as long as it happens before.
I
before
know,
11
I'm
o'clock.
sorry, I'm
No,
gonna
no.
be quick, and we don't need to discuss it in any detail right now, but, in talking about the turf project, one thing Steve and I have been talking to various people about is getting some consideration back from the GAA and the various people who use the turf field in terms of relieving some of the pressure on West Street.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
This might be a more appropriate and legal discussion if it's handled in a general sense of active recreation versus not. The turf project
It's an open hearing.
was an open hearing. We can't talk
Yeah.
about it outside of an open hearing.
Yeah.
What you can do, and I would encourage you to do, is to talk about in general when town projects come
Well,
in.
as an overall program.
As a concept, when town
Yeah.
projects come in, can we lighten up on the West Street soccer fields? I think that's a very
What do you
legitimate,
mean when town projects come in?
active rec, school projects, things like that.
You mean I missed my chance to talk about it?
Yeah, sorry,
I didn't want to draw it out because we were going so long.
sorry.
That's really a problem.
Yeah, you can't talk about it outside of a public meeting. Once we continued it,
Open
it-
meeting
that,
law.
that was closed.
Can I talk about something different?
Well, you can talk about.
In concept, you can say,
I
hey,
can-
when they
okay.
come in for a
About the-
soccer
we can talk
field,
about the
we
concept.
should do X.
All right,
'cause
I
there's still
need,
active
I
rec
would like
projects
us
out
to
there.
talk about the, problems with,
Now, West Street is an issue. I talked to Susan Speaks yesterday. She's the turtle biologist that invoice was for, her and a gentleman named Mark. One of the things that she has asked, or suggested would be very beneficial, would be to lighten up on the use of the West Street soccer fields, not just reducing the use in perpetuity of one section, but to cut back on its use during a certain period. So there's like a 3-4 week period where the turtles are extremely active, and they're very sensitive to activity and move people and dogs.
I don't see anyone agreeing to that.
Again, we have open.
which is why I needed to say that.
active. Well,
earlier.
we have other projects, so this is not the turf project, just to be clear. This is all
This is in-
additional
this is in-
active recreational things
Okay,
that are
general.
within the Conservation Department's jurisdiction. So the turf project is one that we closed tonight, so we can't do it with that one. But there are other active projects that are just as legitimate.
The thing is
project
that-
behind the church has huge waivers.
Right.
Again, that's an open project, we can't discuss it, but that's an example of something that you could bring that up during. So it's not gone, Laura. It's just,
Her,
you have to
the
defer. it.
breeding rates are going down.
I know.
Down there.
Yep, I
They've
know.
lost 2 on the road. They only had 5 breeding, and they lost, actually, they had 7 breeding. I was talking to her
I
at
was gonna
Beach
say,
Day
while you
today.
were on the school bus. you
Yeah,
took
well, I was on the school grounds with her this morning. So they lost 2 on the road, one during a soccer tournament. There have been 2 parties and tournaments down there in the last couple weeks, which caused breeding rare turtles to abandon and go.
Sure, but I mean, that we just allocated more money to expand the parking, which will even, is indicating there's gonna be more usage down there.
Right, but
So, I mean.
she is asking,
That's why I
she
don't
is
think it's
asking
realistic.
that we, what?
That's why I don't think it's realistic, whether I want it or not.
She is asking,
We condition it, it doesn't have to be approved or accepted. This is what we do. Sorry, go ahead.
she is asking that the use of the fields is curtailed for a 3-week
Do you have the
period
dates?
during June 1st through the 25th. No, May 30th, yeah, June 1st through June 25th.
You sure?
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
God, it's late.
Are we,
So
And they can, not during the day, but from 4:30 in the afternoon onwards,
they can't,
because that's
no
when.
activity 4:30 on.
Uh-huh.
So it's during those dates. So what I can do is work with Park and Rec, GAA, and the schools to see if we can incorporate that into. This can be done outside of a hearing, outside of a case. It's just a request. So I can work with them on that and tie
Well,
it
it
into
would
some
be,
of
it
our
would
other
be,
projects.
it would be a management program for.
And we've had management
Combination
programs.
of active rec versus species
No.
habitat protection.
It's a very legitimate concern, and I will.
So what she's told me is that this year, well, actually not this year, but normally she has 5 of them nesting right in the middle of the soccer fields. So what she does is she goes and she has a license to dig up the nests and relocate them so that the fields can be used. But what's happening lately is that there's so much noise and kerfuffle down there that the turtles won't even approach to breed there anymore.
Yeah.
Which is a real problem.
So are we?
We don't know where they're going though.
We don't know where they're going. What she does is she duct tapes a bobbin of thread to their back and then lets them go and then follows the thread all through the woods, the poison ivy thickets, through the nasty sewage pond, and then she tries to find their nest after that. But oftentimes the thread will break or she'll lose them or whatever. She doesn't know where they go. They go into the wetland and they're lost.
They also, in the past, they've GPSed them, where they'll glue a little GPS and they track where they
That's
go.
so much easier.
There's so
But-
much cool technology.
I know.
But she had some that she was losing the other day, and the GPS units take 6 weeks to program. So it's not like she has
not
them
a
in her
real-
backpack
it's
and
not
she
a
can
real-time
duct
data.
tape them. Yeah, exactly. So, and they
duct
have
tape
to
my
be
phone to the
calibrated,
turtle.
they have to be on the right frequency. So that sounds like a good idea, but it's not practical.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. It depends, though. How long is your battery life?
This was pretty good. So I'd get 3 days of turtle travel.
Turtle travel. How does it do underwater in the wetland?
I'm not going to try.
He wasn't
Tape
really
to their back.
offering.
Yeah, well, I meant his phone.
So the fact is
waterproof.
Oh,
that the
see?
breeding success of these really highly endangered and very, very protected turtles is going down. So that's a concern, and I think that we should that we should be part of the group that's looking for a solution to it.
I'll incorporate it into the projects moving forward.
Would it be exercising due diligence if we had this turtle biologist draft recommendations or a plan for us to
She'd be willing to do
Right,
that.
she would love to do
So I
that.
think I'd like to have that approved by us
Okay.
in a meeting.
And it also
Great.
gives it a time zero. She can send it in. We'll
She's
continue
going to
this.
be very busy till the end of June.
Are
so-
we also in jeopardy of not exercising due diligence, and are there any legal implications to this?
There may well be. And she used these words with me. She said, this week, 2 have attempted to nest down there on West Street. On one day, there was a soccer tournament and an ice cream party afterwards that went on till 8:20 that night, and the turtle abandoned and went off. Another time, there was a soccer game and a beer party down there afterwards
Beer party?
till 9 o'clock. And another one, and another one ditched and went off. And she said this constitutes, in her words, in her eyes, a take. So yes, we are legally open to some kind of legal action if we don't take some steps.
Mr. Chairman, I've worked in the past with piping plovers at the federal level, so I'm familiar with activities which constitute a take, and I would agree with my colleague that there could be some legal concerns here.
Yep, I'll pick it up Monday. Let you know when I come up.
So a take would be any activity that alters the behavior of a protected species.
Well, you have to have a dialogue with active rec people, but also with the water department, because it's technically their land, so you have to have a
Also, national
department
heritage.
and natural heritage.
So what I'd love if you might see her tomorrow, Susan, is ask her if she can get something in writing to me describing what's going on. You have dates, you have activities, you have kind of eyewitness examples of problems going on.
Mhm.
have her put that in writing with her recommendations to the town. And what I'll do is I'll CC the National Heritage, DEP, Park and Rec, GAA, the schools, town administrator, and just.
Okay.
Because, again, I can say this stuff, but it doesn't sound the same if it comes from her, who's kind of a turtle biologist and expert, and person that can say firsthand, I'm seeing this happen, where I say it's very important.
She
it's a
can
very
give you
large breeding
the
area.
identity of the turtles that
I
disappeared.
talked to her yesterday in
yeah.
depth. I was getting numbers and names of turtles
And let's
personal-
bring in National Heritage.
That's more important than everybody else, because they can actually make something happen.
Right.
They're the agency that will help us.
I've also been in contact with Natural Heritage about the proposals for the development down at West Street, because the original CPC proposal was so extreme that I sent that to the Natural Heritage, and they have a program where they have a pre-project feedback. So they will send someone here to have a look at the work that's being proposed in a view of the species that are at risk for that, and they will give you a pre-project idea of whether it constitutes a take or not, and whether it could possibly be blocked by them before any other action is taken.
So this is a great way to kind of have one of those pre-meetings with them regarding this issue.
Isn't something gonna happen with the water, the pumping station down there, or the water treatment plant, or whatever is down
There's
there?
a,
Yes,
there's
they're
a,
currently
there's
working on it
a
now.
hypothetical proposal in the future. It has to happen eventually, but there's no timeline given for it. Expanding for a new treatment plant.
Susan said
My
there's a ton of work
understanding-
going on down there now.
Yeah, there's a lot of soil being moved
Yeah.
in piles. So the,
So whatever you consider with this, the whole,
it's interesting because it might not impact the fields as much as you would think. The location for the expansion would most likely be, so if you're looking at this plant from the road.
the parking lot?
Yep, from the road, parking lots to your right, the buildings to your left. The expansion's gonna kind of be connecting the two down the middle, like, so that whole wood area is gonna get hypothetically bulldozed, and the building will be put there. So it's probably gonna impact the parking for West Street more than the fields. But again, they don't have a design, they don't know where, but concept-wise, they just pretty much double the size of the building, and it would go to the right.
And I think we should be aware that the sandy area around that building is heavily used.
They love it.
They nest there
Turtles
all
love-
the
They
time.
love to go in sand
They
because
do.
the sand heats up for the eggs, and
That's right.
that's why they hatch.
So,
So with that in mind, and this is something that Nick and I just, learned last night, and I admit I've never really noticed this, but on the notice of intent, we can require, through the notice of intent process, we can require, as part of a peer review, a wildlife habitat assessment. It's right in the notice of intent. It's rarely used, but I think we would be better served, and we would be exercising due diligence if we thought about that a little more, and if we didn't require a habitat assessment as part of the peer review. And there are companies such as BSC that have a full suite of services, so they do have wildlife biologists on staff. And state regs, I would assume our regs are silent on that, but when they are, we adopt the state. The state regs have very specific that the peer reviewer must have at a minimum of a master's degree in wildlife biology or wildlife management, and a PhD is preferred. So that's a strong tool that I never really thought about. But especially here with our Blandings turtles, I ask that you guys really think about that in the future for peer reviews.
I agree.
I think that's valued. And with that, let's get a motion to close.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the Georgetown Conservation Commission meeting for June 19th, 2014.
second.
The motion made by John Lopez and it's seconded to close the June 19th meeting of the Georgetown Conservation Commission. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining. I want to thank everyone for coming and participating.
Thank you
Special
for